Good to go.
You're good to go.
Okay, we'd like to welcome you to the January 25th meeting of the Weare Finance Committee. Our main objective tonight is to hear presentations on the town budget and warrant. And then beyond that, we will review some of the language we came up with the mailer, for the school districts. And depending on time, go into discussions after that on other business, including recommendations on the budget. So, Naomi, who's leading us on?
They're here to talk about the union, the collective bargaining.
Okay.
They don't have to keep them, so.
Okay, so if you could come up here, introduce yourself, and let us know what you're doing.
All right, good afternoon or evening. Brandon Montplaisir, the Vice President for the Police Union for the town of Weare.
I'm Barry Sharesti, President of the Police Union for the town of Weare.
So we just want to speak quickly on the importance of trying to get a contract passed for the police department along with the community. I think it's a benefit to the members of the agency themselves along with the community if we can get this contract passed. We're looking for an 8% one-year contract. And 8%, yes, it sounds hefty, right? Social Security is at 8% this year, and we're trying to be thoughtful of money. The grand total for this, if this warrant article passed for a 9-month period, is just over $59,000. If it was a 12-month, all-inclusive, it goes up to $67,805. To train one new officer, it costs approximately $70,000. So our return on investment, theoretically, is if we can retain an officer based on this contract, we're getting our return. We're not competitive. And, you know, we watched a couple of the finance meetings and you guys were saying, you were talking about Manchester and Nashua, and that's where some guys are leaving. You're absolutely right. Some guys did go to that agency. They're not going there for the money, partially, because obviously that's going to be a big part of it. We're just trying to compete with the New Bostons, the Dumbartons, the Hennikers, the Antrums, the Peterboroughs. Our starting pay right now, comparative to Dumbarton Police Department, is approximately $5 an hour under theirs. We have guys, 1, 2, 3, if I'm not mistaken, that are seasoned police officers that are valuable to this community. Their knowledge, their skill set that they bring, and the ability to know the community, right? If we have a revolving door, you don't meet members of the community, we don't have that bond with the community, and nothing can get done sometimes. We get a lot of information based on our relationships with the community. We can't talk about how many times you get a phone call, hey, this just happened, are you on, whatever else. And it happens to me, it happened to me today, I was off duty. But it happens all the time to multiple people of our agency because we try to build a community relationship with the members of the community. So it is very important to try to get this contract passed. Sometimes we got to spend some money to save money in the end. So we're hopeful that the Finance Committee will support this union contract and help the agency move forward in a positive direction and work together. You want to say anything?
I mean, you pretty much covered everything. I mean, look at, I mean, I'll be honest with you, our numbers are dwindling at Weare PD. All right, we're losing guys, possibly tentatively another 2 going out the door. Okay, so we're struggling, and it's hard to pitch to get someone to come to an agency where we don't even offer dental insurance. I mean, something as basic as dental. And here we are trying to go out and recruit, because I came from Manchester PD, and I tried to recruit guys, and I got 2 guys here. But as you can see, the writing's on the wall. The pay isn't competitive, the benefits aren't there, so we need something. We need something to try to bring the interest to come back to Weare and work for this town. It's a great town. The workload isn't obviously nearly as anything as Manchester, and that's what I try to pitch it on and sell. But I mean, these guys, the ones I got here, are taking $5, $6, $7 an hour pay cuts, and then you look at like the dental, no dental. You look at the life insurance, it's $10,000. Like, you can't even get a tombstone for $10,000. You know, so I'm just trying to push this with the union, and we're going small. We did a year extension and try to build on it. Like, there's other things that we propose, like military leave options that the selectmen, I presented that to, where they get like 10 paid days military leave. I requested 20, it looks like we got 10.
And that's part of this contract. Again, so if this contract goes through, that allows our newest hire, Josh Berner, he's a part of the National Guard. If he takes time off or he has a drill weekend, he will lose money right now to go serve in the National Guard based on just rank and time and grade in the military. This is trying to make it so he doesn't lose money. We're not trying to make money, right? But we can't have them lose money. Also, I have a certified officer, 5 years on the job. He is very interested in coming to the Weare Police Department to the point that we're going to start a background process and everything else. The contingency, this contract passing. If this contract passes, we are able to bring him in. He's going to take a pay cut, and he understands that, but he will come in. That's $70,000 cost savings right there, just from being able to bring in a certified officer instead of sending them to a 16-week police academy, then a 16-week field training program. Would be an expedited field training program, 8-10 weeks at most if everything goes well, and that's going on the high end before we can get a guy on the street to start serving the community like we should be.
Yeah.
Do you guys have any questions?
Questions?
I do.
Go ahead, man.
Assuming this passes, how close does that get you to whole, meaning competitive?
We'll still be behind.
Yeah, we're way,
How
I mean,
far?
just the benefit package alone, folks, is, you're just behind. We're just behind compared to, and I don't want to compare it to Manchester, even look at New Boston. I mean, look at a town that's even smaller, there's 3 selectmen, the population's maybe half, or maybe a little over half than Weare. We're behind. We've been behind. That's the problem, like, when these budgets don't pass, we keep on slipping further and further behind. So it's, like, people use us as a stepping stone, right? Because we need police officers, we hire these guys and girls, they come here, they get certified, they work for 5 to 8 months, and then they're gone. They're gone. I mean, you got towns offering $10,000 bonuses, and Manchester PD contract, I know we're not Manchester, I'm just giving you an idea, just pass a major contract where those guys, after 10 years on a job, are walking in at $100,000. You look at New Boston outpays us, Dumbarton's outpaying us. How are we supposed to compete and try to keep the members here and Weare when we're preaching one thing and then nothing's happening because the budget doesn't pass, or we fall back even further and then try to tell these guys, please continue to do your job. Please stay here.
Do you have
Like, this
any
is the
estimate of
struggles.
how close this gets you to competitive range?
So the problem is, I did a study, right? So I went back the last 10 years for the police union as far as pay raises go. If this contract passes, that would bring us to 36.89% in the last 10 years. That's an average of 3.07 per year over the last 10 years. Social Security cost of living adjustments was at 27.5%. Inflation's at 25.95%, based on the numbers I could find on open source internet, right? Some of those pay raises are just step increases. They're not even cost of living, so our wages aren't going up. It's just guys are getting a pay raise, but the starting pay is at the bottom still. So that's another fight that we've been fighting for since I've been here, is try to get that bottom line up to be competitive. Starting pay right now for the Weare Police Department. Sir, what's our starting pay? Sorry, throwing you on the spot.
High 40s, the base salary, 47, 48 roughly.
Another thing we need to think about, right, is retirement. In all reality, guys on the job, we will be collecting food stamps when we retire. We will. Top 5% of cops that when they retire get $50,000. It's top 5%, so you're not going to be making $50,000. On top of that, you got taxes coming out, there's no insurance stipend, so you need to get your own insurance. Now you're pulling in $24,000. Obviously, yes, it's a 25-year system now, and you got to be smart with your money and invest in other ways as well. And it shouldn't be the burden of the town to help us with that. You need to be responsible with your money as well. But we need to get base pays up to just be able to recruit guys and make them want to stay here. It is far cheaper to train a guy up, outfit him, you know. If we hire one guy and they stay for 10 years, we buy 2 vests. You know, a vest is $1,500 each, which is 1 vest in our budget line every year. You know, if we're getting 4 guys for the same time period that I'm here, that money keeps on rolling and adding up very quickly. Plus, if they're not certified, then we got to send them through the academy, and there's huge expenses to lose an officer, financially and just their knowledge and skill set.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a couple of questions.
Yeah, absolutely.
You said the $5 pay differential between Ware and Dunbarton.
Yeah.
Is that the average pay or is that the beginning pay?
That's their starting pay. There's Dumbarton's starting pay as of February 1, I believe it is, was $28 an hour. Starting pay, you want to get hired at Dumbarton PD, Tom? You start off at $28 an hour.
Yeah.
No training necessary, no background in it whatsoever. You start at 28. Start here, 40,000.
Is there an age
42,000?
requirement or?
No.
This may be a question for the chief, but I'm sure you know as well.
Yeah.
How many vacancies do you have right now?
So currently, we have one vacancy with two getting ready to go out the door. One's going to Manchester, one's going to Merrimack County Sheriff's Office currently. We're still working on him.
Okay, so you could be down 3.
Yes. And just, most departments around us are on the state police pay scale. I don't have exact numbers for you. I do know the state police are getting a huge bump because they're so short, which means these departments naturally will go up. So I don't know what that does, even if this contract
This was
passes.
10% this year?
I think
State
they're
police was
getting 10%, state police.
So, just as far as like the union goes and what other police departments are getting, this is the second lowest contract that is trying to go forward from our representative from the union.
Yep.
8%, like, everybody else is 10, 12, 14% 1 year, because the market is so competitive. And these these towns are recognizing the need to retain officers. It is a very hard market to find people in right now, extremely hard.
Go ahead,
And you have
Gary.
your own union right here?
Yes, sir.
And is everybody a member?
All full-time sworn police
Full and
officers.
part-time.
And part-time. The chief is not.
Oh, but all the other employees are?
Yes, sir.
Question, Chief. I think I heard you mention this at one of the other board meetings, but the availability of candidates, you compared the Great Bay Community College tests and what's available from there now and what used to be available as far as candidates for office?
Correct, yeah. Several years ago, a couple hundred applicants per test. The test was offered several times a year. The last time that I checked, when they offered the test, they had 17 applicants, and that's for the whole state's pool of people. We did contact them. We got no interest from any of them who actually took the test.
And I can speak just for Manchester with their recruiting, the same thing. They used to have 2 days of testing, they're down to like 20 applicants.
And if somebody showed interest in them, we would actually pay, it's $25, I believe, to give them the test. We put them in our SOT interview room and give them the test right there.
Same test, but just.
Same test.
Exact same test.
We just send it off to get we proctor it and then we send it off with the results. When we find there's a candidate, we move very, very fast to try to lock them up. And
Pun intended.
that's a big asset.
Is that a pun intended?
No,
That much
not
sales
intentionally
pitch.
anyway. But I do like that.
Other people, questions? Tom?
You guys mentioned bonuses. Have you ever offered them or considered that in the past?
It wouldn't be up to the, I personally feel it would be inappropriate for the police union to come to the town and say, hey, I think we deserve bonuses, or retention bonuses, or hiring bonuses. It shouldn't be up to us to ask for a bonus, right? I just feel that would be 100% inappropriate. If the town feels it's the right thing to do and they want to do it, great. If they don't, we're still going to do our job and try to accomplish the mission to the best of our ability.
Okay.
I think the bigger recruitment tool here would be not only some of the pay up, but some of the benefits. Just look around and see what these towns are offering. In dental and, like I said,
Long-term disability,
long-term,
short-term
short-term
disability.
life insurance. I mean, this is a dangerous job. I know people think it's Weare, but you can look and see some of these calls we have gone to, you know. And it's a peace of mind when you're a police officer on these streets and God forbid something does happen to me, that I know my wife and my 4 kids are gonna be taken care of. All right, and unfortunately, $10,000 is not gonna take care of them. So now I have to supplement my income from the PD and buy personal insurance, which I do, and cover that. So that's more money out of my pocket. Where if you go to another agency, they cover it. So, and these are things that we really need to think of to try to keep competitive. I'm not saying we have to be at the top, but we got to at least
And it's obviously, we can't ask for that all in one contract. It's, you know, if we threw everything, like, I wish we had the golden ticket that if we did this, every problem would be solved. We can march on into the sunset and everything's good. We can't ask the town to do that. It's, the numbers there, it would just be too high. You know, we don't want to be a burden on taxpayers either, right? We got to be mindful of, you know, resources that are available and everything else. So we feel that an 8% one-year cost of living adjustment, it does a couple of things. It attempts to, and I'm very confident it will retain the guys that we have. It will make us appealing to new guys trying to come on. Specifically, we're trying to go after certified guys because there is a huge cost savings. And like I said, we have one certified guy that will make the move. We could have him hired 2-3 weeks after this contract gets ratified, if it gets ratified, but he won't make, he can't make the move right now because he can't afford it.
A couple more questions, unless somebody else. One, when you talk about the 8%, that's 8% wages.
That's a whole, it's, yes,
Oh,
yes,
yeah.
8% in wages, yes.
Yeah, and then, but the amount on the warrant, the 59,266, that's the 9-month cost, all inclusive,
That is true.
the wages as well as
Yeah,
benefits and so forth.
In the military, I don't know what the cost of the military leave was. Naomi, do you happen to know what that figure was, or no?
I don't,
Yeah. But again, on a 12-month, full calendar year, under this proposed contract, it would be $67,805. Again, it's under $70,000, which is to retain one guy, or prevent one guy from needing to go to the academy.
One other question.
Yeah.
Two, I think, if I remember the second one. First one is, will your wage scale, the way that it's constructed, remain the same? The numbers will change, but basically would it stay the same as you move through seniority, gain seniority and so forth?
Yeah, so the wage scale that we
Change it, right?
currently have is gonna stay exactly the same. The only difference is it's gonna be a flat 8% across the board on every line.
And the second question is there anything else in the contract that relates to, I don't know, scheduling, or anything else that this group should know before we vote? Is there any other items in it?
We did the military days, we did, comp time.
Comp time, so we have comp time in there as well. It's not tax impactable, so there's talks about doing MOUs, because there is a cost savings to the town potentially on that, and it's not, it's gonna have a tax impact. We don't need to pull in revenue for that change. But that's, honestly, the biggest thing was just the 8% across the board.
Can you explain the military benefit again to me?
So, right now, Josh Berner, I believe, is E2, maybe a private first class in the National Guard, right? So on a drill weekend, his rank is low. He's not making any money. He'd be lucky, I think he'd probably pull in $150, $200 for a muted 4, which is all day Saturday, all day Sunday.
Working here?
No, for the
No,
military.
Working for the
Oh, okay.
military.
So, right now, he either needs to burn his vacation time, and he just loses his vacation time to get paid from the town, and/or he just doesn't get paid from here, and he gets paid from the military, but he's taking a pay loss, right? And so we're trying to offset that loss for his time leaving the agency to go serve in the military for a drill weekend. Our contract now reads that lost wages on a 2-week annual training, they'll pay the difference of, right? So when I was in, I would take an annual training, I would be gone for 2 weeks. If I was on orders, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, whatever my base pay was comparative to my base pay at the Weare Police Department, if I wasn't equal and I was under my base pay at the Weare Police Department, the town would cover that $200 loss or whatever. If I was making more, then the town wouldn't need to pay anything. And that's still gonna be in effect, but it's more specifically for drill weekends.
What if he's activated for, say,
Yeah, so.
6 months,
I
what
mean, I could
happens?
touch on this, because this is where we got this policy, it was from Manchester. So Manchester offered 20 days a year.
okay,
So 20 days a year, so if I have drill weekend, great, I get paid full pay from Manchester PD up to 20 days. But if you get activated, no. You
Okay,
can't
yeah,
use
all
it.
right.
You can use it for annual training, And then if you don't use all your days, so unfortunately I was on a 4 and 2 schedule, so a lot of times when I drill weekend, this fell on my days off, good for me, right? So I didn't get paid because it was already my time off.
Yeah, yeah.
So I actually had like 5 days left at the end of the year. You don't get that money.
Okay.
It's only if I'm serving in the military will the PD will pay up to that extent.
Yeah, so if he gets activated, the current language in our contract is gonna stay the same, that the town would pay the difference between his base pay at the police department and the base pay in the military.
And then with if we can get military, right, so if you look at the military, you get soldiers or Marines or any branch of the military, they're already vetted through the United States government. Like, it's a pretty big vetting process. I'm a 20-year veteran of the Army. Like, you're vetted, you're trained, you're going through basic training. So they're really well-rounded individuals that you want on this PD because they'll make more sound decisions. They can handle, like, bad
Stress,
situations under
pressure.
stress, right? They're not a 21-year-old fresh out of college that has no real-world experience, right? And then they're trying to make that split decision, and they make the wrong decision, next thing you know, the town's held reliable. So I'm a huge proponent of trying to get military personnel to be police officers, because I've served with a bunch of guys that will do great under pressure. So that's why we really push that military program.
Anyone else? Any other- Tom?
Are the administrative assistants in the union, or just
No.
the officers?
Just officers.
This just affects them?
Yeah,
not
this
the
would
other staff.
affect, what is it, 11 plus the chief, so 11 sworn officers, 2 part-time officers, and that's it.
Okay. Has anybody had a chance to read through the contract, the actual details of it?
We haven't seen it.
Do we?
We can absolutely
We
get
get
you
a copy of
copy.
that? Yeah, we like to read them. There was some surprises
absolutely.
last year in a school contract that some people caught on, but not everybody did. And
Yeah, no, absolutely.
You know, it's just.
Knowledge is
you know,
power.
Diligence.
Actually, we're just being consistent because there
Yep.
is a school contract that's up and we asked to see it before we made,
Makes sense.
Vote.
Absolutely,
No.
right. I mean, it's not much has changed, like the 3 things that we really pointed out.
Detail rates, again, we've negotiated that. That's gonna be an MOU as well, because again, it doesn't affect the tax base whatsoever. And we're trying to be competitive and just matching local agencies. And that's one thing, you know, during negotiations, we said, hey, we need to try to do something and thinking outside the box. So we're not coming asking for 15% one year. That is one thing that we can do that's not gonna draw in more taxes and everything else.
And try to offset the lack of pay, for a better words, with a little higher detail rate.
If you guys ever have any questions, by all means,
Yeah, reach out.
give us a call, shoot us an email.
And there's one more policy I can explain that's coming too. There's a domino effect I saw before where, you know, once those first couple people started leaving, it was a mass exodus. You know, when I first got here, you only had 5 people working. So what we did, and we're pitching, and we'll be the only one in the state who offers this, kind of give us a competitive advantage. If we have 3 or more vacancies, there's a 15% incentive in base pay, and where that would come out of course, the salary, because if I've got 3 vacancies, I'm having to pay them. Because once you start getting in that 3 vacancy range, now they're losing their quality of life, because now they're getting called in mandatory filling shifts. So usually overtime rate is 1.5%. If we have 3 vacancies, it goes up to 1.65%. If we have 4 vacancies, 1.8%. And we're hoping we don't get there. So it's just kind of a catch-all to make sure, trying to offset that domino effect for those guys who really stay here, because last time I saw this, I mean, they were spent. We barely saved the department last time.
And one important thing I would like to add on that, if a guy's going to court, right, so I need to go testify at court, I wouldn't get that extra stipend, because you would only get that stipend if you're filling in a vacant shift that needs to be filled due to a vacancy. So if you sign up for a grant detail and it's at overtime rate, you wouldn't get that stipend. It's only to fill vacant shifts, because guys are gonna get ordered in. We need to cover the shifts, and unfortunately, down bodies, we still cover the same amount of time. You know, as you know, we're not 24 anymore. There's no way we could even support 24 without far more, you know, a budget that passes and some cruisers and more bodies.
And I just did the numbers for overtime last year. Total overtime was off the top of my head, right about 2,300 hours for the entire year. Of that, the majority was shift coverage. It was right about 1,200, and it was just short of half. So where people had to fill that second car shift due to the vacancies we had. So that's where we were at.
That it? Any other questions?
I'll just touch on the shift coverage too, like, that kills morale, right? So speaking as the union president, so if I have a Friday night off and I wanna go out with my wife and kids, and I already have plans, but now there's a shift that is open, well, by policy, I have to cover it, because let's say I'm next in the box. So it's too bad, too sad, you know, unless I can get a guy to swap me, that will kill the morale in this PD. I'm telling you that right now. Taking away time away from these guys in the PD and forcing them on every Friday or Saturday or Monday or Tuesday, whatever is open, that's going to kill the morale. And then once you have a low morale, again, people will start looking other.
So you can get forced.
You could definitely, yeah, you
Oh,
get
You can get forced over from one shift to the next if that's vacant.
Yeah, so we have
somebody
10-hour shifts, so we just get forced day to the next day, right? So if I had Friday off, let's say, and there was an opening because we don't have personnel, and they're like, oh, you're up, Sharest.
So how is that? You got 10-hour shifts, so the guy bangs in, or, bangs in, bad expression maybe,
Yeah,
but calls in
calls
sick.
out sick.
Calls out sick. So now you need coverage on that.
Yeah,
There's
so
nobody
then
else
you're
available.
calling-
If you got 10, can you be forced to work the next 10?
No.
No. So how is
You know,
that,
you can,
how is that shift filled?
So you can work, so that would.
How is that shift filled?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So we have an order box, right? So if you're working that day, you cannot be forced to
Okay.
stay for a 20-hour
20
shift.
hours.
By contract, we can work up to 16 hours in a 24-hour period. Tom was on that when we negotiated that probably 7 years ago now?
Probably.
Roughly that. You can work up to 18 hours with the permission of the chief of police. Obviously, in very rare occasions are we working more than 18 hours. I think I've done it maybe 2 times in the last 3 years, and those are significant cases that we need the manpower and everything else. But we're mindful of that as well. Like, when you can get relieved, you get relieved. You know, people have driven me home because I shouldn't be driving, right? So it would be somebody that on their days off.
we'll get called in,
You'll get called, okay.
or they can be held over for at least 6 hours.
6
and then
hours,
the
yeah,
sergeants will
yeah.
call and say,
Call the guy on the next shift to come
Yeah.
back.
hey,
fill
Barry,
it.
you're
Yeah,
a
yeah.
part-timer, can you please come
Yeah,
in
yeah.
from 10
Okay.
to 3 to cover down?
Yep.
Luckily, we haven't needed to use the order box too frequently right now because we all try to work together because we understand once you start ordering guys in, it just goes downhill quick.
Yep.
And so, sometimes you just got to take it for the team and be like, hey, I'll cover you. Like, just work together and try to accomplish the mission.
Thank you very much.
Well, we appreciate your time. And like I said, if you guys ever have any questions, by all means, don't hesitate to reach out and we'll answer anything and everything we possibly can.
I think just getting a copy of the contract would be the
Absolutely.
only additional thing we need.
Absolutely. Who does that? No, can you just send that off to him, right? Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you all. Drive safe tonight.
Thank you.
Hopefully, we don't see you again tonight, right? Take care now. You good?
Okay. Naomi, where would you like to go from here?
I don't know, do you want to just go down from top to bottom?
Pardon me?
If
Top to bottom?
the chief wants to do his stuff, we don't need to keep him either.
Do I have any stuff to do? I mean, I would just
Oh, I
here to answer
oh,
questions.
I just
Oh,
figured
okay.
you'd want to sit
Article?
through the police cruiser kind of stuff.
Okay. Standard.
Okay.
Cruiser, I can tell you what I know. They are gonna have 200 total cruisers next year, available for the entire state. So it's gonna be real competitive, even if this passes to get one. If it passes to actually get it, where it's ready for patrol, it'll probably take a year just because everything's so backed up still from COVID. Like, I'm still waiting on some quotes for actual equipment to upfit it. Without a locked-in bid, they're working on the guys where they know they have money. The cruiser absolutely needs to pass. We've got one in the shop right now where the transmission went out, and it's just gonna keep going. Police cars are driven hard because when people call for help, we go, within the limits of the law. Yeah, but, they're more heavy duty, so repair costs are gonna be more extensive. We try to go to Mark Phillips because he has certified mechanics who can work on them. and I am gonna throw out a shout out to our mechanic at DPW. He needed a part, I think was to work on our brakes. He didn't have the part, or not the part, the tool to actually change our brakes. He went out of his own pocket to buy that tool to work on our cars. I heard about that after the fact. I thought that was just outstanding. You know, big kudos to him. But obviously, we need cars to be able to respond to the calls. I just looked at we're at the end of the year. I looked for the calls of service. We went up. We were averaging about 950 a month. We're averaging about 1,050 a month now. Arrests have gone up significantly. Reported crime has stayed pretty neutral. Self-initiated activity has gone way up. Along with vehicle stops and warnings, that's probably quadrupled over the last 2 years. So a lot of citizen contacts, a lot of good work in there. And just to let you know, we believe in the community feel here, and we try to abide by that. 4 out of every 5 stops just ends in education. Hey, can you get this fixed, or can this do, you know? We track specifically DUIs, reckless drivers who are doing 20 miles an hour over. A lot of skiers we get going to Pat's Peak right now, especially from Bow High School. We get a lot of those kids. But, you know, we try to balance it out in the community and, you know, take appropriate enforcement action when it's necessary and just educate the public when it's not necessary. But we need cars to obviously do that. You know, and I'll give you a good example. Everybody likes the small town feel. We got to handle what gets thrown at us. If you were watching the news recently, you know, there was a homicide in Weare, the baby death. You know, most of the guys were at court testifying in that case. So homicides, we just handled the accident fatality. Do you think we've chased a person smoking crack cocaine in broad daylight here in a foot pursuit? Yep, just happened a couple months ago. So I mean, we got the small town feel, but we hit the big city crime every now and then. Not frequently. We enjoy working here, but when it comes, we got to know what we're doing. We got to be able to handle it. So, you know, I told you guys the critical incidents where it's an instant command event. We have about 6 of those a year. You know, we're not equipped to handle that. The experience level isn't where it needs to be able to handle that. The last thing we want is another Uvalde or something like that here, where we're not equipped to do what we need to do. No doubt we're going to show initiative and do it, but, you know, we'll see how effective we are. And just to give you an idea of what I mean, you know, each patrol vehicle, the frontline vehicle, should have a shield in it. We have 2 that aren't expired right now. So that's kind of where we're at. Any questions?
Anything else?
Yes, sir.
It looks like we're gonna be able to use some leftover ARPA money to
Yes, sir.
offset the cost, dropping it down to 48 instead of 78. That's 100%? Yeah. It's good. Glad we could do that.
Me too.
If you didn't have a snafu,
Yeah, we're trying, Sergeant Placer's doing an excellent job trying to fix the towers, but, you know, everybody's trying to snatch money, and he calls them appropriately, so we're trying to not get our legal department involved, but one tower company is violating our town ordinance, and we're trying to hold them to task to make sure there's no tax impact for those towers. So he's doing an excellent job on that. He and Officer Perslow both. So.
So is there money in ARPA being held back in case there's a problem there?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a big story in itself, actually. Yeah, it's a lot of bucks, and a lot of it is held out from the ARPA money for that, which really isn't going to be part of this warrant in any way.
Right,
Right.
but it's an insurance issue. I mean, it's a,
That's
parachute.
it's too much to get into tonight, but the
Yeah.
whole police communication has been very difficult for a long time.
Yep.
And all the tinkering that's been done on it hasn't really gotten it up to speed.
Yeah, just real brief. It's going to take 4 towers. We pretty much got 3 of them locked in where there won't be any additional tax impact. The one tower came back and said they wanted $1,900 a month for us to be on the tower, and we have a town warrant, a town codes ordinance, I believe is zoning ordinance, which says if they do any work on the tower, they're under the current ordinance, and they have to give us free space on the tower. So that's what we're arguing. No, we get on the tower for free. If we get that, we're fine. If not, we can go about a mile away and we have to build a tower, which is why the excess funds are being saved, just in case it doesn't work out and we do have to build a tower.
Yeah, yeah.
Just a quick one. Chief, I think you touched on it, but we didn't talk really on the operating budget, but if the proposed budget gets approved, that will help you in your equipment that you're short. You say you got 2 shields, you don't have.
Yes, sir.
But that's kind of buried in the operating budget request, right? So the
Absolutely.
operating budget passing is very important.
Huge, and
Okay.
it sends a very positive message. Little snafu with the end of year purchases because I got funding approved for some of my stuff. It was taken out of my proposed budget.
Yeah.
So even if this one passes, I'll still be short all the big stuff, the body worn cameras, the tasers, my ballistic equipment. But it'll be a much lower cost. I mean,
Well, you're not alone.
Yeah.
I mean, across the board on the town, when you've been operating with default budgets for 3 years.
Yes, sir.
The list gets longer.
Oh, absolutely, yes, sir.
So that's an important.
Would absolutely help out. Yeah, and I do think going under default budget has an impact on why these guys leave, you know. After our shooting, when I first got here, it was a pretty strong message, you know, when there was one article for $50,000 to do a radio study to see what it would take to fix the system, and that got voted down. That was a very strong message. You know, cars not passing when one should pass a year, you know, we're not asking for much. But one a year. And just to let you know, I've touched on this, you know, our initial cost right now is $78,000. If we actually got on a system where we were getting 1 car a year, it would go down to about $55,000 because I would be able to recycle equipment and you're selling the car in a timely manner. A 6 or 7 year old Tahoe with 125,000 miles on it is still $15,000 when you resell it. And that was before the big used car increase. Factoring all that, you know, $55,000 a year is very manageable to outfit your entire police department with, you know, cruisers ready to go that we know are going to be reliable. You know, the last thing we want is another shooting situation where we're driving, you know, one of our older cars there and it breaks down en route. You know, that was key in getting Officer Lewis out there. We had 2 cars on scene, but one of our other cruisers drove up the scene. They pulled him in and drove him to the waiting ambulance. You know, that's kind of why we need cruisers. One had to go to the hospital. One took him to the ambulance. 2 are stuck on scene. The rest are trying to get guys to the scene. You know, it's managing those critical incidents where, you know, we can't be thinking about equipment. We have to react and do what needs to be done to save lives and control the situation and limit, you know, safety issues. So, any other questions?
Well, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much.
Okay, next we have the town budget.
Thank you all.
Aye.
Thank you.
So you want to start the operating budget?
Yeah,
So, you'll see from, if you had one from the 16th, until last night, you're gonna see a reduction in the proposed by $97,500 to give you the number that you see in front of you of the, $7,977,540. Where that came from was, listening to, you know, concerns and comments from the public hearing. What we did was, I know we purchased $30,000 worth of salt. We did add a new road this year in the spring that I think we still have to take care of it, salt, sand, plow. So, we split the difference and took off $15,000 off salt. We also had an item in the highway department, as the chief just talked about, that we don't have our own tools. So right now, there was an item in there to buy $58,000 worth of tools. The $58,000 tools was to kind of get our shop up to date. Because right now, what we've opted to do is enter into, we rent the gentleman's tools on a month-to-month basis for $250. Because we don't have the appropriate tools for that. We did buy some at year end. So what we did is we dropped $43,000 off that tool line and left $15,000 to try to get some of the specialty tools, because we got the basics. We got a box, we got the basics of what he needs for day-to-day. Now, specialty tools are a little bit different, and you know, mechanics, so like he said, to do some things on the cars, he needs a specialty tool, so Jason went out and bought it, and he has it available to do the work. We're renting his tools. So we reduced $43,000 off the tools, and then the last one was we took $39,500 off fuel. What that does was we reduced the diesel from 7 to $6 a gallon. It didn't affect the code enforcement, didn't affect the police department budget, because those are gas only. It had a slight decrease in the fire department, the highway department, and the transfer station, because those are diesel-operated pieces of equipment. So reducing the 97.5 brought us down to, instead of 337 to 329, it still represents a 7.52%, but we're down from the 9% that we started out when we first ventured down this road. So that's where we are.
And you said gas remained the same?
We did the gas the same. Last year, what we looked up, so last year, for those that followed, we did $3.25 and $3.50 for fuel last year, and we paid up to I think it was like $4.50, and 22, we paid, oh, she didn't have it here. I know at one point the diesel was $5.81 during May, and the gas was $4.93. So in 2022, the gas ranged from $3.11 up to $4.93 anytime we had a fill. We had it set at $3.25. In 22 for diesel, we did at $3.50, and we paid anywhere from $3.24 to $5.81. And that's without the taxes. So we felt $6 we could work with. Hopefully nothing changes. I do know, I mean, I drive diesel as well, so I see it with the taxes, and it has gone down under 5. Some places in the North Country, it's $5.29 still, but we felt we were comfortable at 6, which dropped the $39,500 in fuel. Obviously, still a gamble. Salt, look at what's happening. We haven't had winter, and all of a sudden we got winter. So. So that's what was recommended last night to move forward to the ballot at $3.29 for proposed and $2.86 for the default, which you're talking about $558,193 difference. And as it said before, I don't need to beat a dead horse. Last time we had something approved was 2019. So things are getting tight and tight. We have our house to do here. Everybody else has their house to do at home. I still have to pay the electricity. I still have to pay the fuel. I still have to pay everything else. We're trying, but at the same time, can only squeeze that buffalo so much. So that's where we are on that one. Like I said, we picked up some changes from listening to everybody, so did some number crunching.
Next one is the non-union raises. That was
Yeah,
new
you guys
last
pretty
night.
much listened to all that. That was also recommended at the 59,266. to go on
The
the
other
ballot.
ones, the non-union raises.
The non-union.
Oh, the
raises.
non-union raises, thank you, sorry. The non-union raises is to be determined yet. If anybody of you watched last night, what you see there actually represents a 5%, because you gotta have a number representative of something. So that represented a 5% increase of the current staffing that we have. What we talked about a little bit deeper was, we've got employees that, the library's got them at $12. Some staff that's been with us for a long time is $15. We've got 2 vacant truck driver positions that we've been trying to fill, and it's $18.39. We've got a couple of guys under $20, 1915, 1951, 1973. It's just tough to find somebody that'll sit in there night after night like tonight. So what we thought of doing was trying to do some adjustment, and combine it with the pool. We're doing, reviews right now, and they are supposed to be done by February 1st, which mine will be done. My employees will be done. I don't know where it's gonna go, but you have to come up with a number. You can't just say, hey, we'll take $100,000 and we'll play with it. That's not, you gotta come up with a realistic, that's why we started with the 5% of the pool. And the pool necessarily doesn't mean everybody gets 5%. It could be, a wage adjustment for some to try to, you wanna keep the help we've got. Just like the chief, they're walking out the door, we can't fill a position. When you can go to a fast food place and make $1.50 shy of what I want somebody to sit out all night long with a $250,000 piece of equipment and babysit and do plowing and cleaning. Not a good thing.
So this, in dollars and cents, this represents a pool of 98,225, which you'll decide, the board will decide how to divvy up.
We didn't recommend or not recommend this yet, because I think they're still, I'll use Kevin's term as noodling. They're still thinking about it, so that one didn't get to it, which will Monday, they have to sign it by Monday. But then also, as Frank likes to see, and I think it's fair, that if it is 98,225, 12 months costs 125,584. But that didn't get a recommendation or either way, because they still want to think about it.
So this recommended by Board of Selectmen that's typed here is not
Yeah,
yet
it's
accurate.
honestly boilerplate that I use, Janice.
Just wanted to make sure I understood what you were saying.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
all.
we haven't, they have to make a motion to recommend it actually for each article, so they did that last night with the section of this one and then one further down that you'll see when I get there. Bill, did you have your hand up?
Yeah, but I think it's more for our discussion, so I don't
Okay.
want to move along.
Yep, so then I'll move on. The radios, you guys saw through CIP. That's coming out of the Special Equipment and Vehicle Special Revenue Fund. Tax impact is 0. I think that was explanatory when he was here for CIP. That hasn't changed. The utility truck has not changed. It's still coming out of the Fire Department Special Revenue. Police cruiser, you just talked about. What we did is, we wanted to put something down so it was a little bit more palatable, trying to do the whole package together. You'll see we tried to use money in most of the articles that we could. So we'll move on to the 10-wheeler. So you guys saw the 10-wheeler article at $260,000. So, $260,000, if any of you were entitled to get one of these, they're also online. Beth has them, and the very back sheet has all the funds. So if you looked at what we had in the Highway Truck and Equipment Fund, there's $22,188.65. So what we did is we took that dollar amount there as exact money that we got from a check from the state of New Hampshire for that additional block grant per the Senate Bill 401. And so what we did is that couldn't be used to reduce taxes, but it be used on highway equipment and highway things. So I couldn't put it to the road reconstruction article, but I'll tell you how I did that one. So what we did is, we took the entire check that we got, we did the public hearing on 9/26 and approved the money. Came in, so we took that entire check per the Senate bill, and we're gonna add it to the highway truck and equipment for $22,000, and you're gonna have $263,000 left. So the tax impact is 0, because we're just gonna put it into that fund and he'll buy the truck. Hopefully we can get it at, right now, the one we ordered right after town meeting, we don't have for this winter, just because of supply issue, I guess, is what I've been told. I'm just gonna keep going unless someone.
Sure.
Okay.
Anybody have a question on the trucks?
No, if you could just go over those numbers again, what was the
Sure.
block grant versus?
So we actually, received what you see there, $241,941. And what we did is, in the existing highway truck and equipment capital reserve fund, you're gonna see, $22,188.65 still left. After we haven't paid for the equipment yet for the plow truck, because it's not here. So Beth has already accounted for that. So we have 22,188.65 that's not spoken for. So what we felt was if you take that and add the 241,941, you came up to about 263,000, and he needed 260 to purchase a vehicle.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. So then we knocked off one of the other trucks, and we had said at the public hearing we were gonna do a government building for the aging buildings. So we took $30,000 in there, which will bring that fund to $53,629. And back, probably, Tom, back before, there was a few on the board that we felt that $60,000, because of the amount of buildings that we have, is a good number to kind of keep in there. So what it says right there, we're gonna add $30,000 to that for the purpose of funding unanticipated failures to aging infrastructure and to fund it from the undesignated fund balance.
Does that mean the town hall will actually be able
The
to
town
use
hall
it?
has a little bit of money, because Mildred Hall left some.
Yeah.
The town hall, we've got, a site walk on February 2nd, so that we can do the bathrooms, and there is money there for the bathrooms. But town hall, yes, we're hoping to get that.
Yeah, it'd be
back
great to
be
have it
open.
actually
Yep.
be able to be
Yep.
used.
Sure.
Is there a plan to use this money, or is it just going into a fund?
I
to-
think it's going into the government building fund just for a what if.
Okay,
You know, we've got a generator that we're replacing with the end of year surplus, and the furnace downstairs is gonna have parts put on it for the end of year. But I have no idea what could go wrong. The safety complex, town hall, DPW, anything could go wrong. You know, that's Murphy's Law usually.
so this is just adding 30,000 to the 23,629 that's
Yes.
in there right now?
Yes, correct.
Okay.
Yep,
A question,
yes.
it probably is for the future, but when Benji left, he was recommending some changes for fuel use at the
Yeah, we talked
heating.
about a pellet stove, or a pellet, kind of like similar to Hennecker.
Yeah, then we had,
That was, I don't remember the number, but it was.
there's no action on that this year. then?
Not this year, no,
Okay.
no. It was more than what we got.
Yeah,
So I'll move on with road reconstruction. If you remember on the first printout that you guys might have seen that, and CIP recommended was 640. 640 was adding a bump and doing the parking lot at the library. So what we did is, again, in an effort to use what is there, went to the, road maintenance and reconstruction has a capital reserve fund on the back sheet, and it has at this time, had $156,877.55. So what we did is we took $140,000 off of what was being asked for, dropped it to 500. Now, you might say I didn't take more, but I'm taking 140 of that, or 140 of that, plus the 5 gets you back to 640. But anybody that lives, or I guess, in the Reservoir Drive area, we had a culvert go bad. So we fixed that, and we also had R&D come out with a hot box, and we paved it so that we didn't have more damage to either the plow trucks or digging into the, so there was money there spent for culvert as well as hot box to pave it. So we haven't gotten those bills, so I wanted to be on the safe side. So we looked at, like I said, taking off 140, it's money we already had, and it dropped dropped from 28 cents to 17 cents impact by dropping 140,000. The capital reserve fund for the tennis courts hasn't changed at all. As stated, we'll have to do better on our part. We did take out, so it wasn't explicit about where the tennis court was gonna be located. Left it a little bit more wiggle room if we needed to. And we'll have to explain that that's a portion of it, and it was well mentioned at the public hearing. We'll have to do that in our part of the mailer.
So that will go on the mailer, not in the article?
Yeah, I've, pretty much, so these have been through legal review, they haven't been to DRA yet.
Okay.
But legal has changed around, which is what they all saw last night, and you guys are seeing the same thing that we worked with last night. The new Parks Revolving Fund, there was mention we had the wrong RSA, which we did. And in the original article, it was Parks and Rec was agents to expend. The recommendation was to be consistent with other funds and let the Board of Selectmen be the agents to expend. We have a good group of people now, but it was recommended to keep consistency and let the board take care of all the funds versus volunteers. So, there was a little bit of change, honestly, with who was going to, be the one in charge of the funds. And the RSA was changed, and that RSA does allow for the revolving fund for recreation. The prior one did not.
Just, I don't know if it came up in this group or whether it's at a board meeting, but they gave an approximate number of how much that would bring in.
Yeah, so we had been bringing in, I guess, around $14,000 in last year. For some reason, we had a really, really low year at the Chase Park. So I think the revenue, I don't want to state that. I think it's like I think we were $3,500 or $5,000 last year versus the $14,000 the year before. I don't know if it was weather. I didn't track the weather. I'm really not sure,
Yeah.
But it can be upwards, in some years it's $14,000. So I'll move on to Cypre. There was discussion, or I guess I brought up the fact of being able to, kind of try to map out our cemeteries, but that can't be used for Cypre, so that's left alone at $10,000. The foresters, let's see the right one, back to the raise. The forester, same one you see every year, $20,000 for the forester, comes out of the town forest account. I think she had the town forest number here. Anyway, I don't see it here. Oh, yeah, forest as $32,280.10. So we'll squeak out another year of the forester for $20,000. They are doing a couple of cuts, but not a whole lot. The next one is gonna be totally confusing, and I'm gonna try to do my best. We had it as one article, DRA wants 2 articles. So this optional veterans tax credit, because the optional was the first one, and then they opened it up to an all veterans credit. And the legislature made a change in July of 2022, and every town in the state has to readopt what you've already done once. And if it doesn't become readopted, it falls back to the original $50. So what it was the legislator did it to expand the eligibility criteria to include individuals who've not yet been discharged from service in the armed forces. Evidently, both of those, as prior written, didn't allow the individuals that are serving today to have the credit. So they expanded it, but where the optional is 7228 and the all veterans is 7228B, Department of Revenue's requiring us to do 2 articles. That's why they're almost verbatim written, other than the few words. But I can just tell you what I just told you.
But basically, passing those 2 articles maintains the status quo. of what we're
Maintains the
doing.
$500 that everybody's been getting, right?
And it's not that you can be eligible for 1,000.
No.
It's 500 and that's
Right,
it.
right.
It's not.
Yeah, because years ago, we used to do it for anyone that's a veteran, and we had, I think we have 300 and, veterans exemptions. We have, right now, under the first one, the 7228, we have 323 residents that are eligible under that, which gives a total credit across the town is $161,000. The all veterans credit, we only have 14, and that's $7,000 of a credit. That is, so those 323 people would have to reapply and start again if we don't become successful, but we're gonna do our best because I don't wanna do that to anybody. But that's why you're gonna see 2 articles. Sorry about that. I wanted a shorter ballot as well. The next one was something that came up on us last night. which we didn't make any motion on. We're actually gonna come back, they're gonna think about it, they're gonna go to some of the old meetings, to see what's going on. And then we will make a decision Monday night. So there's two still out. There's the raise and that. The article for petition, there's not much you can do for it or I can do for it. There's
Can
no
I
money.
actually ask a question about that one? What determines what roads are paved in this town and what
So,
roads are not paved?
Town council looked at it, and she said that this is advisory only, there's no money attached to it, and it cannot be amended at deliberative session. So, I understand they want the roads paved, but that's, they're in line somewhere, I don't know where the somewhere is. There was fear that all you do is throw 25 names on, bring it in, and we'll put you next in line. That's not how that works, because if you remember when we did the road bond, there was a whole study done of each road. And it goes to what I said earlier is, they'd like them paved, but we did that years ago we did it on Ridgeview, if you can remember, Ridgeview used to be dirt.
Yep.
So we did it on Ridgeview, and it wasn't a short amount of time that they wanted speed bumps, they wanted something else, because the cars were going by too fast. So pavement makes it smooth, makes it fast. You've heard the chief, they can't be everywhere. So, I get it, but at the same time, it does sometimes create headache. I live on a dirt road and don't ever want to pave, so. Just let you know.
Is it, I assume that it's cheaper to maintain a dirt road than a paved road, or no?
Well, you've got to add the calcium if you want to do it right with no dust. Calcium works really well to bind the pavement, and you still have to grade it. They've been trying some systems with chip coating and some other things to get more life out of it. And actually, the chip coating works well in the winter because it's kind of a gritty surface. But again, a dirt road is kept in the winter, you can't put salt on it. That's the other reason why Reservoir Drive, we could not leave a patch of road, because there's no way you're going to shut the sander off, and then you're going to have nothing but mud at that patch. Because you can't put salt on a dirt road, because it just makes mud. Which, what the boys have been fighting with is that warm weather we've had, the roads have ruts in them, but we can't go grade either. So I don't know that it's any cheaper, because we still grade, we still put the calcium down, you still have to do the ditching. I don't know, I've lived on a dirt road ever since I moved away from home. And I wouldn't take the gift of living on I lived on the highway as a kid. We did play in the street, though. My mother told us to.
So there's no money attached to that, so therefore we don't take
And
a
there
position.
won't be, there's no amendments that can be made at town meeting either. So town council said it's advisory only.
Because there's no money.
Right, because what could have happened, and I won't go into it, you can do a betterment assessment,
Yeah.
and that would be, if the town voted yes, we would basically do the road, we'd pay the bills, and then we'd tack on for the next 10 years the cost of doing the road onto your bill. It wouldn't be built in your bill, it would be not you pay for it or I pay for it, it would be an addition. And a lien goes on your property for betterment lien and goes that route.
Just on the people who live
Just on those that have the property on it, yeah, yeah.
Got it.
But they didn't ask for that.
Nope, they just want it paved.
Sending a message.
Answer the question about how the director usually has a plan.
Yep.
And it changes each year depending, and oftentimes those that are through roads will get a priority because of the heavier traffic. And sometimes they get on the list because of
Yeah, well then,
political
the
pressure.
last couple of years, he's worked in the mountain, the mountain area, because it only makes sense, if you're gonna do Mountain Road, why don't you do all the offshoots?
Right.
And then what happens though, is it's a 2-year thing. So you put the base coat on, and it's gonna sit for a winter, so you make sure it was good and you don't have waves and bumps. Then the next year, part of the plan and use of that road reconstruction money is to put the top on. So it's a kind of a 2-step program.
Any other questions on that one?
Bill.
Can I, just one number, and I think Beth had said it was one time, when we talked about the fire department stuff, 700-some thousand in that special revenue fund, or I thought, it's stuck in my head, 700-some thousand, right?
Yep, you're right. So there was 708, and there was $708,000 in it, and in revenue, we took in, it's on the back page,
It's on the back, if I read it.
185, less the 350 that we've got waiting for the ambulance. So you're gonna see the deficit is the 164, which is the difference. So as of, this would have been for the public hearing, there's 543, 333, 95.
If I looked, I would have seen that.
Okay.
Yeah, okay, thanks.
It's small.
I don't mind helping you. I can lead you away. So,
So the utility truck's gonna come from that?
both articles are coming from that, yep,
Yep. The 543,
yes.
yep. Okay.
But for the year, we took in the 185. She shows it there in parentheses, well, she shows it there in the italics.
That's after the
yeah.
Yep.
administrative fees are paid? 185?
Yeah, she wouldn't have put it there.
Straight to town, okay.
Yep.
Okay.
And we were all set to use some more of the American Rescue Plan money, but the email snagged us. So, no, so, you know, you saw the rescue plan of 269, there was been thoughts of what we could do with that, and then we were almost ready to offset more of something until we got the email that said that only 3 out of the 4 are working with us. So they want a $1,900 a month lease for 14 years. That's a lot of money. So we may end up building another tower if we have no success. So we needed to have that cushion. So that 369 that you're gonna see is really 339, because that doesn't affect the 30 that I took out for the cruiser. This hasn't been updated from 16 yet.
There's two things that haven't been voted on by the Board of Selectmen.
Yep, it's the raises and the composition of the Board of Fire Wards.
Only one has financial impact.
Correct.
The Board of
Yes,
Fire
it's
Wards
the
does
Board
not.
of Fire Wards, that, you know.
Yeah, the raises, that's approximately where it will be dollar-wise, it's a matter of structure.
Right, I mean, that's where I'm thinking it would be, that's what we talked about.
Yeah, I don't think it's guaranteed until they talk about it.
Yeah, it won't be until Monday night that we decide that, but it's
Right.
only, like she pointed out, it's only the one that has monetary. The rest is not monetary for you guys. I mean, I've went through everything else, but.
Does the Board of Selectmen vote on the fire ward? They have to accept.
They will, they
can
wanted a
accept
little
it.
more information.
Yeah, but they don't approve that or anything?
They can
right?
recommend or not recommend,
Okay,
Yeah.
that's, yeah,
Yep.
on the warrant,
and then it goes from there.
yep.
And did you guys
And-
settle whether or not this is a petition or not?
It was brought forward, town council drafted it, due to some things that have been going on.
But it was not classified as a petition.
No, it doesn't have the requisite signatures, didn't have the time frame. So. But the other 2 articles, you won't see us recommend the petition, we never do. So,
Any other questions on any of these before we move on?
Right.
so I just wanna, I mean, I thank you guys for bringing up things, I mean, we crunch numbers all the time, and just sometimes another set of eyes and looking at things at the public hearing was a huge help. So,
One quick question.
Yeah.
The police and the non-union raise pool, neither of them still mention that it's a 9-month. Was that
yeah,
talked
so,
about?
so
or-
I did talk to a resident today. He asked if we could put something on there, but, something with the collective bargaining, because it's driven by the state law, I'm not sure we can or can't. I'm willing to ask that question of town council. But, we will have to, obviously, sell it, that it's, you know, the question was, from the resident is, can you do it, like, at the end, if approved, the annual cost would be?
Right.
And the same thing, we did that on the raise one, but typically it's April 1st, so it's 39 weeks, and then the annual would be the 125.
We did that for the last
Yeah.
3 years.
Yeah,
4 years,
so I think
for the,
part of it,
For the fire
part of it's gotta
department.
be for us to sell on our part of the mailer. It is 9 months, and it has to be talked about at deliberative session that it's 9 months. That's why there's 2 numbers there.
Right. But that's always the case.
Yeah, because you can't do it you can't go retroactive. No.
Did that answer your question?
Yeah, I think so. I guess we can talk about whether or not we are allowed to mention it in our comments. I don't know if that's separate or not.
Okay.
Not going anywhere for any other questions.
Now, Bill sent out some recommended language. Do we want to take a few minutes on that before we go into decisions on the town?
Sounds good. I did get comments back from, Janice sent a good comment. I made an adjustment on that.
I also
Better
sent
word.
you one on the Stark, I'm not sure if you saw that.
I did.
So we're good on the Weare School District with the language for the operating budget. Not recommend 5 to 3 and the reasoning. Everybody okay with Bill's wording on that? And then the educational support staff, with the change that Janice recommended, there will be a reduction in subcontracted services which offset the budget increase, was the
Yeah, I
additional-
just found the word savings being used could be confusing to
Yeah.
somebody reading it.
Yeah, no,
you
that's
know.
good, that's good, Janice.
It's an offset, it's not a savings.
So these are both good to go for Ware School District?
Well, other than a couple of typos, right?
Oh,
But
Oh, yeah.
But,
Great.
I would just, on the third line where it says, because if approved this year, it would result in a 10% increase since 2021. I would say be a little more consistent where we say that below a 10% increase over the 2021.
Okay. Got it?
Other than that, like, it's just nitpicking.
No, nitpicking's good because I
Wait.
always said I got a C in English in high school. So I'm always good with that.
I'm not sure if this, where it says the default budgets and ease the impact on OM taxpayers, I don't know if that's supposed to be on taxpayers or to taxpayers.
It was
He was
probably me.
practicing his meditation.
I was saying, I probably said in the middle of that sentence, yeah.
Voice to text.
Impact on taxpayers.
Yeah, I see it. The M is next to the N on the keyboard, right?
It is.
Yeah, okay.
It's close.
You're gonna excuse that, okay.
And then a couple sentences down, but the district has historically returned.
On average.
And district is kind of an odd spelling. It works, but it's just a little
It is,
different.
it is. Why didn't my spell check pick up on that? Why didn't I pick up when my spell check did pick up on that? Yeah. No. Oh, that's good. I'll correct those.
Anything else on any of the others? If not, how about John Stark?
Yeah, I missed Janice's, whatever. What was the correction, Janice?
It was more of a, I don't know if this makes sense to do or not thing.
Okay.
In the last paragraph, it starts additionally, the voters in 2021 approved a warrant article in that forward. I'd like to see something worked into that says that the Stark School Board can allocate surplus funds into that annually without any approval.
Oh, yeah, if you don't know what that one is, that's.
Right.
2 years ago, when they had the late summer election, they had the article in there that says, for ad infinitum into the future, each year they could, before returning money to offset tax revenues, the school district could withhold 5% of the value of, assessed value in a contingency fund, okay? The first year, they did that, and they took $350,000 and they put it in a bucket over here in case they had, that they could use. This last year, they took no additional. They could have taken another $140,000. It would have brought up to $499,000 as a cap on that fund now. But anytime during the school year, they can have the school board can look at it with the district and say, gee, we'd like to take some money out of that bucket and apply it to this over here. And doesn't have to be capital improvement, it can be a repair, it can be anything. And to do that, they have to have a public hearing. People can come and say their piece, but then it's up to the school board to take, and they can allocate.
Yeah, so I don't know if it makes
Yeah.
any difference in our decision and the way we write this up, but I think the general pop does not understand that the
Yeah.
board can do that.
Yeah.
So
I'm
I don't
looking-
know if it makes any difference in
Yeah,
how
so if
we
you've got-
write it.
If you've got better wording, because
Well,
my intent is.
does it add any value to our decision?
Oh, no, I think
Explaining our
I think
decision.
it's important because, I mean, I know when I voted, because there's no recommendation on this. And
Right.
when I voted no, it was because
Okay, then you believe it is
there's a
pertinent
considerable chunk
Okay.
between the proposed and the default budget this year. But I think it's, I don't know, 200,000
Yeah.
between
Yeah.
their proposed and default, I think it's about
211, I think.
200,000. They got 350 in this contingency fund over here.
Mm-hmm.
They've historically returned about last year it was 800,000 to be split between Henniker and Weare. Historically, Ware's gotten about 500,000 back at the end of the year. But I'm saying, if they get a default budget and they're short somewhere during the year, they can get some money over here from the 350. Because, to be honest with you, I got a little bee in my bonnet over that whole article passing. And I said, fine, you're gonna play that way, fine, use your contingency fund.
Yeah.
So I think it's good that the taxpayers know that's why. Creating the right reasoning so they understand that, maybe I can defer to what better words can be.
Yeah, what I proposed was adding, after the first sentence additionally, the second sentence would be, the Stark School Board can allocate surplus funds to this fund annually, subject to the cap, without additional voter notice or approval.
Okay, is that where you're saying the school board can expend these funds as needed after a public hearing?
Before that,
Before that.
in between those two sentences.
Okay, so say that again?
It's in the email I sent you.
Oh, okay, wow,
Okay.
all right.
See, in the past, the school district had, on an annual basis, they could put in an article, and usually it was for a specific purpose, like to add to their infrastructure fund or something like that. And I think this committee was pretty comfortable with that. It had been done and it was for a specific purpose, and you weren't giving a, go with it each year, okay, which, I lost track of the fact that that was finally approved during
Oh, yeah.
that short year, because I think, because we discussed it and recommended against it.
We voted 13-0 against that on this
Yeah.
panel, so we had unanimous support from you and me alike.
That's not that,
Big enough-
Unusual.
Seems like it's a big enough dimension financially to mention it.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's not a footnote, it's,
well, it isn't gonna change anyways, the
Yeah.
article, because you're not gonna bias the article one way or the other, because we split on it,
yeah, right.
you know, so.
Okay, I just wasn't sure if it
But-
made any difference to the,
Well, I think,
explaining why we did what we did.
yeah, I think the clearer the better.
Okay, thank you.
So are we good on those?
Good.
Send them to the press?
Yeah, I'll make that correction.
Pending corrections.
They only get handed out, they only have to be cleared and handed out at the deliberative for now, and then when the mailer goes out, depending what happens in deliberative.
Actually, it's unusual this year in that the school district meetings are after the
That was
town.
mine, that was my choice,
Pardon me?
that was my choice.
Yeah. In the past, they've all been the same week with the school district meetings. I'm fine with it, I'm not questioning it, I'm just saying that it's
Didn't
a,
give me enough time, I was so crunched to get the mailer and the town report together.
Yeah.
There's no, they don't have to be the same week already, they're all independent. They just have to all be done by a certain cutoff.
yeah, they're,
Yeah, we're giving two choices for ours, it was the 4th or the 11th.
Yeah.
okay. So, do we have any minutes, Tom? I didn't find any online.
No, I didn't get them done.
Okay, we'll do those next time. Then, what we can do here, it's almost early in the evening, we could say, is to go ahead with the discussion of the town warrant articles, if people are okay with that, and maybe we can get through them tonight. If not, then we'll have to take a look at whether we need to have have a meeting. Tom?
Can I make an observation or a suggestion? One of the things that I wanted to do personally was to look at the whole package. We voted on the school stuff, but there's obviously a lot in the town warrant that, you know, the dynamics of the total are important to me. And I have a spreadsheet here that has everything laid out in it that should tell us, should be able to calculate in a spreadsheet what the total tax impact is, and then what the cost for 350 or 400, whatever. I'd like to be able to run that through the committee and validate it and use that as a part of our process. So it's, you know, I can share this with everybody, can see it, and we can talk about it, but I can put it up there if we have the opportunity, but,
That's better than me reading it off my cheat sheet here. See if our numbers are the same.
yeah, I don't have the school information tallied up yet,
I get-
so I would probably
Yeah.
want to rely on your numbers
Okay.
for now. So anyways, personally, for me to vote on the rest of it, we can discuss, I'm fine with that, but voting on the rest, I want to be able to look at the whole picture. So, and we talked about that a couple of meetings ago. But I have a spreadsheet here that we could, you know, put everything together and actually look at what the total number is.
So what are you suggesting right now, that we do right now?
We could either go through and confirm this and use it as a tool, or do it after discussion. I want to make sure that that my numbers are correct and everybody else is comfortable with it. If we're going to say it's a total of this tax impact, everybody should
Right.
feel comfortable that it was done correctly.
And that has traditionally been part of the mailer.
Yeah, exactly. Right, that's really nice. I like when, in the past, when that was done. For me, I don't want to vote on things in a vacuum. And we already did vote on the school stuff, and we kind of have to we had to move along, but before I go any further, I want to be able to see the total impact. Schools are obviously a big chunk of everything, but the town there's a jump in the town this year, so we got to factor that in, I think.
So you're not saying you have different numbers than we already have, you're just saying you are accumulating.
Aggregate, yeah. We haven't had the town finalized until an hour ago, and so it would be, I'd want to refine the numbers and get a total picture, if possible, if we can do that as a work session. So,
I just hate to put the brakes on everything and go back with a separate meeting if we could get a chunk of this at least done tonight.
Can we do it now?
this would probably take 10 minutes.
Have you got something you can flash up on?
Yeah, am I able to just plug
I'd
something
say,
in?
go for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You might just pull it out of the ceiling. Nope.
The other side of the
The other
door.
side of the door.
Oh, other side, the
Just be
other,
careful when you pull it.
my other left.
Yeah. Yeah, the screen is lifted. It's all our pulley.
Where are you?
That's good. I'll see if I'm right.
Technology.
Ooh, look at that.
This is better.
If it worked, at least so far.
Well, so far,
Light came on.
see if my laptop wants to behave.
Don't call it victory yet.
Yes.
All right,
Ooh.
okay, so, let me just save this before we go any further. Oh, can't do that. Hold on, let me just do a local save. Okay, so, Bill, if you could help me plug in the tax impact of the Weare School budget.
Yep. Proposed or default? Proposed?
Both, we'll do propose first, I'm sorry.
Okay, this is the two articles together. If you want them, the operating budget and the contract, if you want them separate, I can give them to you separate.
If you have them separate.
8, 12, and 8, 12, and 15 cents for a total of 827.
So 812 per thousand for this budget,
Yep. And the
And-
contract is 15.
15 cents,
Yep,
0.15 per thousand?
correct.
Okay, and then the John Stark budget,
523 for the proposed.
5.23?
Yep,
Okay. You want to do the default numbers?
yeah. It's 807 for the school budget, 0 for the school contract,
Yep.
and 511 for Stark.
Okay.
Yep.
So now, what I did was I took I think the only thing different in the town was the proposed versus default budget. If somebody wants to just check my numbers here, looking at the warrant that we got tonight, make sure I'm doing this right. I got 329 for the proposed town budget per thousand. It'll be on page 3 of the handout.
329?
And then 286 for default.
Correct.
That's after revenue and all that.
Yep,
Yep.
Then the police CBA is a nickel.
yep,
And then the non-union raise is 8 cents.
correct.
Yes.
They're the same, right? There's no default proposed for
No.
those. Fire department radio is 0. Utility truck 0. PD cruiser 4 cents.
Right,
Dump truck 0.
Correct,
Building maintenance 0.
correct.
Roads 17.
yep,
Tennis courts 2.
Yes.
And I think that's all there is. Park fund is nothing. Cemetery is just pulling from one to another. And the forest is coming from a fund.
Correct.
So, and this is where I want to make sure, this is where I might be wrong. So when you add up all those tax impacts, is that rational to do? Can you add these together to come up with a total, right?
yep,
These aren't these aren't ratios that you can't add. These are numbers, dollars.
right.
I get $17.15.
Yes,
Versus
exactly,
16.
exactly, yeah, I was 2 cents off because I forgot the tennis courts, so yeah,
Okay.
that's what I got 17.15.
16.4.
Yeah,
Okay. So now, for a $350,000 house,
right. One other thing,
Yeah.
well, that's okay, go ahead, keep going.
no, go ahead. This is where this is where I'm off. I believe I'm off because that can't be right.
Well,
So,
don't compare the 1715 to the 1740 from last year, because 1740 included the state ed and the county numbers. You got 88 cents.
so we take the difference.
What I did, I took the 88 cents for the county, which has traditionally been, it could be a little more, it could be less. It's a little more uncertain on the state ed, because 2 years ago it was $1.49, and last year it was $1.09. It dropped, and I
Yeah.
don't know the reason for that.
We don't really have that until the town gets the.
Yeah,
put
we're
up
not
with
gonna
the
know.
state.
No,
What
we're-
I did is I cut it in half. I said, I'm gonna throw in the $1.29 or so figure for this year, for that state, split the
Now,
difference.
did we include that since we weren't making recommendations on it, because we can't?
Yeah, but when we look at,
It's mandated, isn't it?
when we look at what we expect, last year, we kind of included that in there because we wanted to say, hey, here's what we expect is gonna be your tax bill, the impact on your tax bill. So if I added that in, of the 88 and $1.27, I come up with, what is it, 88 and $1.27, it's like $19.28 versus the 1740. If we're comparing it to apples and apples, if you're gonna compare to the 1740, you gotta have that. If you leave those two out, then instead of comparing it to 1740, you're comparing it to 1740 minus the 88 and the $1.09. You know what I mean?
Well, I don't even have a factor in here for the for the state cost. So,
Yeah, I'll look at what we said in the mail last year. I think-
Well, for our discussion tonight,
yeah, just looking at the
because
warrant.
that's gonna be fairly consistent with.
Yeah, it is,
what
it
in the
is,
past.
it is, yeah.
Yeah,
It's okay, we can just leave it off for now. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah,
Okay,
for tonight.
okay, leave it off for now, yeah.
That way we can get as
Yeah.
far as we
Can I
can
see your
with.
calculation?
yeah, so this is wrong, obviously. So,
No, it's not.
No, that's right.
it's not.
No,
Correct.
350 times 1750.
350 divided by 1,000
Yep.
times 1715.
3.50
Yeah.
times 1750.
Say again?
Same thing.
Yeah.
It's right.
Okay,
And so is 400's right.
so that's the
Tax bill.
tax
Annual
bill,
tax bill.
not an increase. It's what the tax bill, that would be the new rate.
Right.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
based on an evaluation of the town property as of like December or?
Okay.
Yeah, it's,
Your assessment doesn't
1715,
change
so if we
unless
took
you
the,
do
take away the 80. what
so I used the town assessment number here, the 1282284. That's correct? Okay.
$1.97.
That's what we get the impacts.
Check it out,
Okay.
97, 197 less, so we go 17.
When all is said and done tonight, Tom, could you email us a
Sure.
copy of this?
So I guess one of the things we should add here is what, I guess what the tax rate is this year, right? Versus 1715. I mean, I'm looking,
1740.
it's 1740.
That includes,
Oh,
if
right.
you're looking at apples and apples again.
Yeah, that's what you're
If
saying.
you're looking at apples and apples.
I get you
Go
now.
1715 is what this would cost, compared to last year's, get rid of the 1740 because it included the county and the state, you're talking 1518.
So
So
what,
it's 1715 versus 1518.
yeah. Do we, just to do apples and apples, should we put the county and state in there? You came up with a swag, right?
Yeah, I came up with 1928, and that was using an average of state over the contribution of $1.27 over the last 2 years. So I got 88 for the county and $1.27. Takes the 1715, brings it up to 1928 if we want to compare to 1740 on this year's tax bill.
So would you do 88 plus what?
$1.27 comes out to. Oh, I'm sorry.
1.27.
I'm sorry. Yeah, the 2 cents is in there.
1.27, not 100.
Oh, thank
Yeah,
you.
1.27. Yeah. Yeah. So
blow
it's.
it
So it's 30, I think it's 1930, not 1928, because I had missed the Parks and Rec one.
And that bottom line, though, if you compare to last year, that doesn't take into the account money that the town will give back to offset taxes, which last year was
Right.
$600,000.
Which is, yeah,
Yeah.
right.
And that,
I always look at that, I'm kind of looking at the big thing. We're looking to get the schools in there. When we look at schools and town refund, coming back to offset taxes
Yeah.
last year, 2.1 million versus what is normally 1.2 million over the 5 years before that. So I know when I looked at it, I said, okay, you take, if it comes back to where it's a $1.2 million offset, it can take about $350 off the increase, because what I came up with, Tom, was about a $650 some dollar increase on the 1930 versus the 1740, on a $350,000 house. If you take back what we normally get, and that's what we put in the mailer on the front end of it. Say, well, if you get back what we normally get, we're gonna take about little over about $350 off the tax bill. Your taxes are expected to go up about $300 on a $350,000 house. If we don't get back anything, it can go up as much as $650. If we get back what we got back last year, your taxes will remain pretty flat,
Right.
but don't expect that.
Yeah, without any give back, it's 665 for a 350, knowing that there's money in there that's
Yeah.
gonna offset this.
Yeah,
Yeah, we won't really know that until,
yeah. I think we owe it to the taxpayers to just tell them, here's our best guess. And we were pretty accurate last year, because we told them it was gonna be, hey, if we can get anything back, it's gonna be $700 increase. And then we said, but if you get back what you usually get, it's gonna be about $350 increase, and it ended up being about a $70 increase. And you said, why? Well, it's because we got so much back.
this would have to be caveated as a worst case.
That's what we did last year in the mailer. In the
Right.
front end, we said, worst case scenario, expected, best, so.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just since the next thing, I know you want to look at it as a total package, but tonight we're looking at the town portion.
correct.
And we're saying that if the proposed all goes through, it's including all of the warrant articles, that the taxes are gonna go from 1720 or 1740, which was it? To
1740.
1740 for the town, to,
No.
No, the town, that 1740 includes the county and the state.
does it?
It's gonna go from, I think I called it 15, I took the dollar, $15, it's gonna go from $15.18, the town portion. No, that was town and schools. Now, the town portion was,
Less than that.
yes, it was. if you take the schools out, you're really, you went from 305 last year on the town side to the whole town budget on all the articles? Yeah,
Right.
365.
Yeah, you can just sum up, what,
Yeah, 305 to 365, it's about a 60-cent increase, which equates to about a little over $200 on a increase on a $350,000 property. That's the town portion.
Okay. I think that the other part of this, as we go through it, we've heard a lot about the
line
needs.
6 through,
And I think that we have to balance the impact of the taxes with the needs that have been expressed. For example, the amount of times we've talked about, we haven't passed a proposed budget since, well, for the last 4 years. And so we're putting in the default budget, $54 or something in that range for road salt, and we're paying nearly $80 for road salt. So if we go with a proposal on the default budget, somehow something has to give. That's just for that one line. And then the fuel and other things too. So I think we got to look at these and say, okay, well, what have we heard as a rationale for this need, as well as what's the cost? So what I'm proposing is that we take a look at this. If we've got a proposed budget in front of us, I would like us to take a look at it and say, is it time to throw our weight behind passing the proposed budget?
Yeah, so now that we've seen this, can we move along, or
Yeah, that's what I would like to
that's what
do.
I'd like to do too?
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that I had my numbers all correct and complete.
You're
Your
good.
yellow square on the right-hand side can't be right though,
No, it isn't.
because you cut and pasted the 60/90 instead of the 64/90/250. You see this, you have 62/94/50?
Yep. Yeah,
And you copied it from the other side, it's 60/90.
yeah. Yeah, so that's,
Yeah.
this should be 350 times H20. No, this is current year. So it's 17.4 times
Oh, that's
350.
correct, right, my mistake.
350. Yeah, the yellow is current year.
Okay, good.
Just comparing current year to default, current year to proposed. Does that make sense?
It does
Yeah,
that.
current year it doesn't change.
Yeah, it doesn't.
It's and this is the difference between the total current year, total default and current year, yeah. So the whole, default to propose is a couple $100, it's like $265 per year,
Right,
and, or $300 per year for 400,000. That's kind of the number that I was really concerned. What does it come down to, the taxpayers walking in the booth? How much more am I gonna pay if I vote for everything? I'm trying to work up from that, or down from that. I can definitely send this out, right,
Well, I hope they also say how great is the need for running the town.
right. Well, yeah, that would be our comments, right? Our recommendation comments, yeah.
So, are people comfortable taking a vote on recommending or not recommending the town proposed budget?
Yes, I was comfortable an hour ago. Just saying.
Just to move everything along, I'll make a recommendation, or I'll make a motion to recommend the, was it Article 3 or whatever for the town budget.
Second.
Okay? Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor of recommending the,
Is there any other,
Discussion. You want some
we
budget,
need
some-
discussion.
any other
Yeah,
discussion?
that's us.
oh, okay. What would you like to say?
I didn't have anything to say, but I thought we should have a discussion before we
Yeah,
vote.
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I'm just trying to move along too
Yeah,
fast.
no, I understand,
Yeah.
which is appropriate as well.
Yeah.
Okay. But you're right. So, good comments on the budget.
I think the Board of Selectmen and Naomi did a good job of paring down lots of things from when we originally saw this. That saved a tremendous amount of money. I didn't add it up, but,
It's almost $100,000. It just, for the
well, it was
change.
more than that when you take all the dump truck and the cruiser and all that stuff.
Oh, yeah, I'm talking about just the proposed
Yeah.
budget here. Their work on
Yeah, I just
Monday
meant in general,
night,
paring everything
after
down.
hearing the comments at the public hearing on Friday, was it? Or the last week, whatever. Then they cut almost 100,000, 99.5, something like that. 97.5, from where we were just a week ago with the budget.
Just that would be better with numbers, but.
Any other comments?
Yeah, I'll just say, I've said right along that this is probably the most important warrant article on the ballot, that in the contract for the parish. And I think that the town has really worked hard to decrease the overall tax impact this year, which I was concerned about going into this year with how it was so low last year. But with the other resources that have been applied, I was surprised when I ran the numbers that although it's a lot of money, but when you do what's expected, it brings it down to a more reasonable level. I think it really creates a good opportunity to pass a town operating budget that we haven't had. We've had default budgets for 3 years, and it's just making it harder to manage day-to-day affairs when you're robbing Peter to pay Paul to fill the salt, the fuel, and the other shortfalls when you're operating with like a 2019 budget. So I think this is definitely a go.
I would say that the difference between the default and the proposed is minor on this one. That they did a very good job of keeping those very close together, and so I definitely would recommend voting for this one.
Could I ask a question? Naomi, what was the percentage increase again?
7.52,
7.52, okay.
just a little over $500,000, $558,000.
Are we set to call for a vote? Got those in favor of recommending the proposed budget? It's like 8-0?
Yep.
Guess we don't have to say opposed because it's pretty obvious. All right, the police contract, we learned a lot about that tonight, CBA. Just to clarify that the tax impact this year is the 59,266, but in future years, it will be the full 12 months, which is 67,805. For discussion, we have a motion, one way or the other.
Make a motion, we approve that police article. It doesn't have a number on it, maybe number 6?
We don't really have an article number yet.
Right.
Yeah, I didn't put article numbers on because Thursday night is the last of the planning board, so then I can finalize my numbers, they go first.
All right, so let's call it the police CBA article.
Yeah, okay. So the motion's been made, was there a second?
Second.
To recommend the police CBA, collective bargaining agreement. Discussion.
I think we're spending a lot more money in turnover, and this is gonna pay for itself.
I mean, we're either gonna have a police department or not.
Right.
I mean,
Right.
you're gonna not have one if you don't support these people.
Well, if the numbers they presented are accurate, to your point, it's a no-brainer,
Yeah.
right?
I mean, we're gonna spend $70,000 when one person leaves next month
Yeah.
to train the replacement. And this way we make, 12 people happy, or happy or not happy.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah.
Any other comments?
No, I'm totally in favor of it because the atmosphere we live in today, I mean, it's even more difficult trying to hire these people and keep them in-house. You hire somebody and it's putting them in your pocket with a hole in it because somebody's going out the door as fast as somebody's coming in. And we can't compete with the big, as was said, the big police agencies, but we can at least encourage those who are here that we're trying to do something. And we may get a new officer as a result if this passes. And it's a nationwide problem. It's not going away. We're going to continue to lose people, but we got to do our best to try and keep what we got. So, no problem here.
Any other comments? Okay, all those in favor of recommending the police CBA? Looks like it's unanimous, 8-0.
Were you an eight?
Yes.
You a yes?
Yes.
Your hand went up.
For our role.
We really can't do anything on the non-union raise because we don't have the full story on that. So we'll have to come back to that.
Can I just make a comment on it?
Yeah.
I want to applaud what was done this year, because last couple of years, we've provided our opinion that it would be better, these across-the-board wages have created other warrant articles for $1 here and $1 there for certain other individuals. This affords an opportunity to look at the overall wage pool and how it sits with other communities, and a chance to bring the lowest ends up.
Yeah.
So they get a more competitive wage, and then go with the merit base next year. So I think it's a step in the right direction, no matter how much is.
I just want to go off target here with this particular discussion. Many years ago, Naomi chaired a committee, Benefits Review Committee, and we worked on that and came out with looking at virtually every employee, not just the classification, but also employees, so that if there was a raise applied to a classification, nobody lost money on it because of the seniority. And unfortunately, that failed by something like 20 votes at the polls, and it was a lot of work had gone into that. It was close enough so that we did a recount, but then it didn't change, maybe a couple of votes, but that's all. But this is aiming in that direction, at least, again, to look at individual jobs and what they're worth, as well as where they are now in the pay scale. Just a little editorial. Okay. So we'll move on to the fire department articles. And again, these are paid for through the special revenue fund that comes from ambulance billing, with the first one being fire department radios at $15,000. Is there any discussion on that?
If there's zero impact, does the finance committee, I don't remember.
We do.
Yeah, we have.
Yeah, we do.
Okay.
I'll make the motion to recommend.
Second.
Yeah.
Recommend, comments on it?
I was just gonna say, even though there's no tax impact, they're still moving money, right? That's why we're
Right.
taking a stand on it?
Yeah.
It changes fund balance.
Yeah, right. So money is being spent and appropriated, it's just not coming from the taxes.
Taxation.
Yeah, if we felt like it was a bad idea to move it, we would vote accordingly.
I don't have a problem with this one because it's 15,000. I think the fund can afford the 15,000. So I'll support this one.
I would support it because the current equipment is unserviceable, so
Yeah.
if we don't have the ability to page people out and to reach people, then chaos will ensue.
Sorry. Yeah,
And to your point earlier, it should be another morale booster to get new equipment. Everybody likes new toys, so, and they're important, so.
Other comments? All those in favor of recommending the fire department radios Once again, it's unanimous, 8-0. And the second article under the fire department is fire department utility truck replacement. And again, this is a fully equipped utility truck for the fire department. Said funds to come from the fire department equipment and vehicle special revenue fund.
You need a motion for that?
Yes.
Yeah, I'll make a motion that we pass the fire department utility truck replacement fund with 0 tax impact.
Second.
Okay. Made and seconded. Other discussions on this? Questions? I know, Bill, you have,
Yeah,
About the
this
total.
is the one, I know I'm probably in the minority, but I'm a no on because, well, I am concerned about that overall fund. That's why I asked you what the balance is, and you're talking, it'll be down to about 543 that this will come out of with the radios, about 185,000 going in annually. And I'm only going by what the CIP was presented, where you're looking at a pumper, a tank, a fire truck, a tanker, and an ambulance going down the line here in the next about 4 years. Now, if they push that further out, great. But when you look at the prices on those now, you could have 350,000 for an ambulance, 600,000 for a pumper, or a tanker, and 800,000 for a fire truck. That can total 1.7 million, and if you add 185,000 a year going down the line, you're gonna have 1.16 million. So I think the voters are gonna be unhappy if you tell them we gotta buy a fire truck this year, but we don't have enough money, and we're gonna have to raise tax through taxation, this major article. This utility vehicle, although we didn't get too much into the discussion of service life left on it, the discussion was that once they get this new truck, they were gonna take that one and give it to Public Works, so it must still be able to go down the road back and forth.
It is able to go back and forth
Yeah.
down the road, but it is not able to do it in the capacity that is needed
Okay.
for the fire department.
Okay. And on principle, I would say then I would have been happier to see it, some of it raised through taxation, so that we're preserving that fund for the major purchases. So that's where I'm at.
I thought there was a discussion, though, about the fact that they had moved in one of those major purchases to 2025. I may have it incorrectly, but it
Yeah.
had been out in 2026 or 27.
Pulled it up a year.
And then they said, well, we were only doing that because we thought maybe it would need that, but it really probably can go back out a year.
Well, the maybes and the probablys. Give me what your best guess is, put in the CIP,
I
and we
think
run
they
the
ended up
numbers.
moving it back out a year.
yeah, they did. Remember that we had a memo that came from the CIP
Right.
chair.
That clarified that they had
that-
moved it.
Yeah, that had been changed and moved out, which is, would more than absorb this 105, by moving that out a year.
So the typical revenue for this was
185
185?
this year, and
Right.
Any other discussion?
I think 2 years and of revenue, we've pretty much covered another truck just about. So I think whatever as long as we're not trying to buy 2 in a year, I think maybe we're pushing it a little bit, but I think it's close enough to be okay.
Would anyone like to review the CIP before we move on with the vote? Bill, would you, or,
no, I'm okay. I know.
I'm prepared. I'm prepared.
It's okay.
Okay,
So this is gonna come out of the fund that has 540, will have 543 in it.
Yeah.
It has 543 after everything settles, right? We're taking 105, so you're worried about it being lower, or below around 400 with the plans in the next couple of years being shifted, but now they say they're gonna shift them back.
Yeah, I don't, the minor shift that Jack Dearborn said wouldn't change things much.
No.
For
I mean,
the-
that's,
for the
and that's
price-
not,
for
that's
the
not
price.
contractually, that's just
That's just,
plans and
that's
good
what
wishes.
CIP does, it looks out and it
Right.
gives its best estimate, and if the,
Things
if the
change.
fire chief and the board of fire, whatever, everybody says moves that out, further, great,
Well, it's also approximately 185,000 a year coming in, is that,
Yeah.
so on top of what's there now?
That was 22s.
Huh?
That was 22s.
So you get, if 4 years, you get about 720,000 added to the four is a little over $1 million, but when you're looking at the ambulance, the pumper, and the fire truck, you're looking at 1.7 million, so that's all I'm saying.
Oh, just, you get another factor that you haven't thought about yet.
I
is,
can't, I'm sorry.
You're looking for a new chief this year, so you went from Mr. Vazina, who had it pretty well planned out,
Yeah, further
and
up,
all of a sudden it hopped back this way.
right.
And then we did spend some money on the tanker this year, so the tanker should be pushed out, because we just had some repairs done to that. But they're also in the search for a new chief, so I don't know what, you know what I mean? Every time there's something new, we seem to, so I don't know what the answer is. You have a new factor coming sometime this year that may look at the fleet and say, we're all set, or you don't know.
Well, this is a 2003, so it's a 20-year-old vehicle that we're replacing. So if we get a new one that lasts 20 years, we'll have some time to accumulate some money into that fund. Even if we knock off 10 years, we'll still be able to accumulate quite a bit.
So, Highway Department can't credit the fire fund for the truck that they receive, huh?
Yeah, once that one goes over the highway, then a few years from now, when that breaks down, they'll be looking for a new one.
Yeah. No, I think it was gonna go so that the, folks, when they were running around town, weren't gonna be using their personal vehicles. It's not really gonna go to be a service vehicle.
Or a more sizable truck to
Yeah.
go for parts or whatever, yeah.
Yeah,
Or a safety vehicle, right?
Yeah.
All right, anything else before we vote on this? All those in favor of recommending the article for a fire department utility truck replacement? 7. Not recommend?
I already wrote it down, so.
Okay. Police cruiser. As was discussed earlier, there's $30,000 from ARPA funds that is going to be used to offset the cost of $78,010, to bring that down to $48,010.
I will make the motion to recommend.
Second.
Discussion.
I was against this originally, but the ARPA funds are sitting there and it's offsetting it. I mean, we could probably wait if we had to on this, but then we'd be paying the full price. And good old inflation is hitting us hard. I don't know how long. It's 4 cents in the scheme of $8 for the school budget. It's,
Nothing.
it's,
And,
the ARPA just makes it like, why not, just do it,
and it's gotta be another morale booster kind of thing, whether
Right.
we're not doing much else. Or
yeah.
And it is fully equipped, so we have to keep that in mind.
whatever that means.
Well, that comes with all the computers and the cage and all that other stuff.
All the stickers.
If it wasn't fully equipped, yeah, then it would be another 10, 15 grand to.
Well, that's been an ongoing joke for a few years.
Yeah,
Oh, really?
is it unmarked?
They're all marked. This question is it a ghost, is it
Right.
ghost graphics or
Right,
not?
no, that was part of the joke.
I missed something here. I don't know what you're
I'm with
talking
you,
about.
Tom.
Last year,
There was discussion a couple of years ago
taking the
about,
markings off.
it went on and on at the deliberative about whether it was marked, lightly marked, fully, there was a price for a
Oh, I
car that
know,
wasn't
I
fully
know,
loaded and
I
was
know.
another
They-
cost.
They lost a car because of putting it in 2 separate articles, one marked, one not marked.
Right.
They're all
But,
marked, it's just ghost graphics.
Who you
Okay.
gonna call?
Anyway,
If you obey the law, it doesn't matter, does it?
Well, that'll come up, on this article at deliberative, it'll come up of whether it's marked or not.
Tom will bring it up.
It says fully equipped, so that's
There's
not an issue.
also front line, I believe those have to be marked.
Where I live, I wish they'd line it with marked, unmarked, and speed bumps, because it's a 30-mile-an-hour zone, and I swear, everybody goes 50 down that hill past the store. Not everybody, but many.
Many, yeah.
Just those named Tom. I said just those named Tom.
Not this time.
Anyway,
Are we in a motion?
Let's vote.
Yeah.
I'll,
Move the
everybody
question.
knows where I stood on principle. That I have no problem with a cruiser coming in, I just I wanted one coming out. I think the number that they have is sufficient to support current operations, has been for the last 3 years. So I would like to see it come in with a new cruiser and then take one of the worst ones, either put it out or take it and kick the Explorer out and move one of them up. But I feel that unless it's replacing one, I can't support it.
I do believe that's gonna happen by default. One of those is gonna go.
Then they'll want two.
Well, I'm just saying, I think it's gonna happen by default.
we know they want to. They wanted to for a couple of years.
There's a fine line in the discussion here, because they did eliminate a car, but it was eliminated like 2 years ago
Sitting
and
on the
not
garbage
replaced
yard,
at that time.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, no other discussion, let's vote. Police cruiser. Those in favor of recommending the article? Okay, we've got
7-1.
seven.
Yeah, I already wrote it down.
You were just doing a pose just to have it.
Well, I'm just standing on principle, you know, as far as where I've been on it.
Well, your concern, I think your concern's valid, and it'll be a minority comment.
Well, maybe with one, maybe not. So, we'll see. I may stick one line in.
We'll leave it up to the guy who writes the opinions.
All right, 110-wheel dump truck.
My turn. I'll vote to recommend the 110-wheel dump truck.
Second.
And you read the article, that money is coming from the undesignated fund balance, is that correct?
Well, that's where the money sits. That
Pardon
was
me?
that additional money we got from the highway, from
Right.
7041.
So it's in the fund, but it came from special.
We've got it earmarked differently on our sheets, but.
Okay. Is there a motion? Or did?
We did it, we have a
We did it.
motion.
Motion and a second.
Okay, I'm sorry. Sleep at the switch here. All those in favor, if there's no further discussion? Okay, it's like 8-1, 8 to 0.
Zero,
Excuse me.
yeah. I didn't have anything on principle on it.
We appreciate your principles. Government Building and Maintenance Fund, is that still to come, or are we
No.
voting on that tonight?
Nope,
It's,
you've already,
it's set.
you got the one still to come, the other one has no money attached to it, still to come.
Okay. Do I have a motion?
Anybody else? Anyone?
I'll move.
You guys are doing a great job.
We are,
I know.
I move that the,
Don't want to ruin that.
I move that we support the Government Building and Maintenance Fund,
second.
recommend it. Is there a second?
I did it.
Second.
Okay.
You gotta do it loud.
I have a question on this.
This, question time?
Yeah, I missed something along the way. We're gonna move 30,000 from the undesignated fund balance. Where does that money come from originally? I'm trying to figure out the trail of that.
Taxes.
At the end of the year, after the audit has been done for that year, anything that was a surplus from this goes into the undesignated fund balance. Designated means that it's in the fund balance, but it's already designated for a purpose.
Yeah, this is open, right? Open-ended.
I don't know if there's something you wanted to add to that, that's all.
Well, the undesignated fund balance is unpaid taxes as well as, like, we had money that we had purchase ordered last year, and either it didn't get completed or it came in a lot less, so that extra money goes into the undesignated fund balance, but about $1 million of it is unpaid taxes.
So it's on the books, but it's not cash in
It's a
hand.
receivable, but it's not cash in hand.
So when there's enough money in there coming
That's what we
in,
use to offset taxes sometimes.
yeah,
Because we
So, yeah.
really estimate conservatively on what we bring in for money. And as people buy new cars, it just, you know, that extra money, but we always do it conservatively with building permits or any one of our revenues. We try to keep that, because I don't want to go in and tell you we're gonna receive all this money, just to make it look like it and you would recommend it, and then we don't have it.
mhm.
So we like to, and the last couple of years, we've been pretty good with, you know, saying we're gonna, this impact or that impact, and we've been pretty close.
So voting for this, there's no tax impact directly, but there's a,
It's always a tax impact.
yeah, right. There'd be a reduction in money that could be given back.
Could be given,
Could be.
right.
Could be, yeah.
But again, they have to be conservative with that. I've always been, when I was on the board, conservative with how much is given back, because you have to have the right cash flow, you have to go out for a tax anticipated loan, because we, the tax collectors, the town is, which is for the schools as well. So the school bills us, what,
We
monthly?
work really well together.
Hmm?
We work very well together.
Yes.
You know, we back off the requests when we're running out of money, so that we can get some money in. Because the school, we set up requests for the school, and there's, as you hear the selectmen, there's so many checks every, you know, and that just keeps the cash flow, but a little bit of an in, because I do the treasury at the school, so.
So the
I know
cash,
we got for money when I can have it.
so the cash flow that's there is all-inclusive for the schools. So that's why you can't give too much of it away at the end of the year to offset taxes, because there has to be enough left in there for cash flow.
Right.
And the state gives you some guidelines on.
Yeah, I do the same with my business. I leave some money in at the end of the year.
Yep.
The difference in this, between this and the dump truck was that money's being put into the undesignated fund balance from another fund to be
It was
used.
unanticipated revenue when we did the public hearing.
Yep,
So the unanticipated revenue was undesignated, so it sits in there.
that's classified as undesignated.
Yes.
That's where it went.
Yeah.
I got it. And it's okay to earmark that for the truck. It's already there.
Certain things you could use it for, because
That's the
actually
one.
Bill and I had conversations, and we talked about road reconstruction, we talked about other
Right,
things.
yeah.
And you couldn't use it that was gonna reduce a tax, so but you could use it for equipment.
Yep.
So equipment was part of the list, so why not use it and not have a tax impact?
Oh, yeah, I agree. And that money is already there.
Sitting in there,
Yeah, it's not like we have to wait for anything.
Yeah.
We already get the money from the
That money's
state.
sitting there.
Okay,
We got both monies, both the
bridge,
and the.
yeah. And the bridge is gonna go to bridges.
Right.
Right, it has to, I think.
Yeah,
So
it's
this one, this 30,000 is not there yet, but, okay. And that fund already has
I don't know if
20
we have it listed.
24,000?
23.9.
Not, 23.6,
23.6.
yeah. Okay.
Okay, where are we? Road reconstruction?
No,
Nope.
we did.
No, you gotta vote on it.
Now, we're in a motion for
On the
government.
government building maintenance, sorry about that. Was there any other discussion on that? All those in favor of recommending article on adding $30,000 to the government building and maintenance fund? Okay. Is that set?
Opposed.
Okay.
Yep.
7-1?
Can I make sure I get the minority opinion? It's
Well, 7-1, right?
Yeah, well, just for a line in there.
Sure.
How would you phrase your one line?
With money in the fund already, I'd prefer that money to be available for, to not deplete the unreserved amount at the end
Okay.
of the year,
Okay,
potentially to offset some taxes.
okay.
Your turn or mine?
Okay, now we're on road reconstruction.
I know. All right, I'll make a
I have to vote
motion.
no for something.
Motion, we do the road reconstruction, recommend it.
Is there a second? I'll second it. I get my name in print here. Discussion. It's a pretty familiar article to people. It's offset by
$140K.
$283,965 for block grant from the state.
This has been pretty consistent
Mhm.
over the years.
Well, they cut 140K off the original taxation amount.
That- yeah.
Is this kind of a consistent annual number for this?
575's been the number. 575 has been the number. This year they went to 6, and then the 40,000 for paving the library. That's how we got to 640, but you've already paid taxes on what's sitting in the $156,000, because that's sitting there. That was raised last year.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's been going up, and the reason is in the last few years, we had the bond to catch up, to take care of those roads that could be saved, that weren't in the red zone for total rebuilding. But our previous director, Benji, wanted to slowly increase this so he would be able to do that restoration of roads that didn't need to be rebuilt, because the road reconstruction was going more for just total reconstruction. And then for that period of years when we were using the bond money, we could catch up a lot, and he wanted to now level it off and keep it. So it's been going up by, what, about 25 a year for the last
Yeah.
2-3 years?
Hopefully.
We run a couple same and then increase, and I don't know what the price of asphalt's gonna do either, so.
Yeah, it does,
It's not gonna go down.
no.
Yeah, that's for sure. Well, okay, so it's quite modest in comparison.
Yeah.
It's using the money that you already been taxed for.
Other
That's how
questions
we
or
reduce it.
comments?
Okay.
We still got another 6 years on that bond,
Yeah.
2029.
29.
For that $1.5 million. But this was also, in addition to that bond, we had one of these that year as well.
Okay.
Maintenance versus reconstruction.
This is one, I'm glad we looked at the overall impact, because this is one that I would have had in the back of my mind to say 1 year, not doing it and still getting the state funding, which you would whether you approved it or not, you still get the state portion.
Still get the 283,
But when I started looking at the overall impact, I said, yeah, we can do this.
17 cents.
Yep, yep.
I mean, a lot of the town stuff is small compared to the schools.
Yeah.
Gotta keep that in mind
Yep.
myself, I have to remind myself. We're just taking a hit this year for the catching up on the budget, the proposed jumping up, and and inflation.
Any other discussion? Okay, those in favor of recommending the road reconstruction article? Okay, 8-0. Tennis court replacement.
I'll make the motion to recommend.
Second it.
That's creating a capital reserve fund and placing $20,000 in that fund this year to save toward the replacement of the tennis courts. I think you've all heard the background on that, but last year, the Emma Sawyer Fund paid $18,000 to have it resurfaced, but the company said that would be the last time that could be resurfaced. It would have to be totally rebuilt next time, because it wasn't the first time that it had been resurfaced. So, it's good for a little while, but it needs to be rebuilt.
What was the cost to rebuild it estimated?
They don't know,
Oh, no.
they're saying, thinking it could somewhere in the 180 to 200.
5-year plan. And that, it doesn't say that in here, someone's gonna bring that up, but, can I ask Naomi a question?
Sure.
It says replacement, we talked about development, did that get discussed? I wasn't there last night, but there was a
This first part is to really survey and see that we can do what we need to do, because, and there's an opportunity for some matching grant money, but it also, it's gonna make it ADA handicap accessible, it's gonna make it some other, so the reason why we took out, the location was what if the survey shows you can't
Yeah, right,
place it
Can't
there?
do it there.
well, that's why
So
replacement
It could
was,
go somewhere else.
that's why the word replacement was, somebody suggested the word development instead of replacement that night, for the same reason. Because if replacement means, could mean same location,
Could mean, yeah,
So,
if
you
you
know.
already have one today, you could put it in another
yeah,
location.
that's the only comment I had as far as the wording goes.
Mhm.
And it is a 5-year plan with unknown, an estimated
Yeah.
total. Um,
Well, if you felt strongly about the wording, that's one thing can be done, a deliberative.
Yep.
Is adding.
Yeah, as long as you don't change the intent,
Yeah.
right, yeah. Right.
Motion on the tennis courts?
You did it.
I think
Yeah,
so.
we're in
Go to a
discussion.
vote now.
Vote
Oh,
no.
I'm sorry. You gotta kick me off as chairman next year.
Right.
Okay, all those in favor of supporting this article, recommending it? Six,
I counted 5.
try it again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Oh, sorry, thanks.
So, not recommending 2? 6, 2?
Can I make sure I get the reasons for not recommending, so I
You can
put
go
it,
first,
put it in there.
whatever you don't want to know.
I think it's too open-ended. I understand $20,000 to a lot of people might not be a whole lot of money,
Okay.
and you do need to make a study if you're gonna do something, but I think the whole parks area is ripe for a strategic discussion on how we're gonna handle that as a town, and until then, I don't think we should be spending any money to replace anything of that magnitude.
Okay.
Just for background information, the Bolton Field area, which is a major recreational area, has done just that. They have a long-range plan, and they've tried to go back to that plan several times for additional parking and so forth, which is all in the plan, but it never made it as far as the votes go. I don't know how this committee had recommended it in the past, but I know that the plan exists for the Bolton Field. It doesn't encompass other areas, but it does. The next one is the new parks revolving funds. So even though that's not an expenditure, it certainly changes the funding structure of the town. And that's why I was asking Naomi earlier on this, what that brings in actually. And it kind of tops out at 14,000, but sometimes goes down to as low as 5. And I think it's more than anything revenue from Chase Park. And right now it goes into the general fund as a revenue. So this would, the revolving fund would allow that to be used toward improvements to the facilities at Chase Park or Bolton Field or whatever, over the years. But it would have an impact in the sense that it wouldn't have money going into the general fund as a revenue. So our revenues would go down by whatever amount, but it would still be there, but it would be designated for the use of Parks and Rec.
And it's still under the control of the Board of Selectmen.
Right.
For distribution.
Board of Selectmen have to,
So I'll make the recommendation to, or make the motion to recommend this article.
I'll second it.
okay.
As far as further discussion goes, I understand the designation between the general fund and this being a specific fund, but it changes nothing in terms of what they have to do to get repairs done. So they still have to come to the Board of Selectmen. I
Right.
don't see any benefit in passing this.
Well, it does be, in a sense, because there's only two ways. You either have to put a warrant article for a major improvement, rather than saving money for it and then approving it through the Board of Selectmen, or you have to put it in the operating budget. So that.
And again,
that's-
they need a strategic plan, which they don't have. There's very little direction on what they're gonna do with the parks overall.
There's been a plan, but it's getting old now, and every time they've tried to have something,
Fair
it's been voted down.
Well, that tells you something.
There are certain things that aren't massive that the Parks and Rec needs money for. For example, if you have a broken piece of playground equipment and you don't have the money in the operating budget for that, but you have this, it could actually save the money, save the town money in the long run, because when you get to a skateboard park or a playground equipment like at Bolton Field, that has to be kept up, the same as in the school playgrounds. Otherwise, the minute that something is broken and you acknowledge that it's broken, you become liable for the injury that occurs on it. It's like.
And if it were that important, they would have an operating budget that reflects what they need to do, and they're not doing that.
Well, as we know, we haven't passed an operating budget in 4 years, so.
But the parks didn't bring forward a budget that said we're gonna need to do this, this, and this. It's very minimal, and so, again, opportunity for strategic direction to be placed on whether or not parks is important and how much we're gonna spend on it. I don't see that this changes anything, but I've said that twice, so I'm done with my part of the discussion.
What's they have a 71,000 in the proposed budget?
Yeah.
$71,000 budget in the proposed.
Right, which isn't a whole lot.
No.
In my mind, for Parks and Rec.
We had a motion.
Yeah, I know, I'm
Okay.
looking for other comments.
If this doesn't pass and they need to do some repairs, they can go to the selectmen who have a bottom line and can ask for the money to fix something. Selectmen can grant that to them, they can manage, figure out where to get it from, or say no.
Well, so to speak, at the end of the year, but you can't like go to, say, the police budget and take money out of that for Parks and Rec.
Right.
You have to be bottom line within your department's budget.
Just within your own department.
Until at the end of the year, then if there's money at the end
Then
of
the
the year,
surplus.
then it can be more generalized, but
Okay,
I think you create a little war among the departments of, it's not right, it's not legal.
well, the school can do what they call the cut and add. Can the selectmen not do that?
I don't know what you mean by that.
So the school can, they call it cut and add, where they can take, I guess they don't have as many departments, so to speak, as like the town does, but they'll take money out of one budget line and bring it into another one so that they can spend it there.
Yeah, well, that within the departments happens here, like the police, well.
Within but not across, is what
Yeah,
you're saying.
within the budget, they can move things around but they can't, say, hey, fire department needs lists, can we have a little bit of your money? Doesn't work that
They're
way.
not doing that. Okay.
So I will say that the operating budget for park typically just handles the contracts that they have for
Maintenance.
landscaping and everything
Mowing.
like that. Everything else has to be capital equipment, capital expense, and so that would always have to be on an article of some sort.
Yeah. Reconstruction of bathrooms in the past has been one of the things that has come up. I don't know if that had to be a warrant article or what, but I think it did.
I believe it does, because
Yeah.
it would not be operating expense.
Right. Any other comments?
So the primary change here is this just allows money to accrue. year to year?
Yes. It's the same as any other, it's really the same thing as it's a different
Ambulance.
RSA, but it's the same thing that's happening with the fire department, in that it's a special revenue fund.
Transfer station last year.
Pardon me?
This is
Revolving, no, it's like, I'm sorry, it's like the
Transfer station.
transfer station, yeah. I got the mixed up.
But
Trans-
it does accrue year to year if they don't use it, correct?
Mm-hmm. Which potentially has some benefit if some major expense comes up. Now you don't need as big a warrant article to handle it,
Like
right?
vandalism,
Yeah.
we've got a huge mess down at Bolton right now. Kids went in, the rest is deep in a football field, to get in with a truck.
So there are things like that, there's the dock that, you know, a lot of people put their boats in that, and if when that becomes unsafe and nobody can use it,
Mm-hmm.
the park still has to wait for approval.
Come around, yeah.
Exactly, right now they have to wait for approval for that,
Yeah.
so this would allow them to handle it, something like that, a little quicker.
When will these funds be deposited? I know things happen month to month, day to day, but they wouldn't be able to use that and really until the end of the year, until they know where they end up netting out, right?
Correct, right, so it's basically would start off at zero next, you know, then as people pay for their passes and everything like that, then instead of just going to the general fund, it would go into.
Starts to accrue, yeah.
Yeah,
But then once it accrues, then they can use that anytime, whatever's in the fund is usable anytime.
yes.
So they,
With the approval of selectmen.
They still have to
Everything
fo-
else, yeah.
yeah, and the Board of Selectmen have to approve it. Yeah.
Any other discussion? Those in favor of creating a revolving fund for Parks and Rec? Okay, I've got 7 and 1. Moving right along here to get to the easy ones, the Cypre cemetery funds. It's the same every year, 10,000 to do work inside the cemeteries.
The motion to recommend.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Right, bang it all.
We ended discussion?
Yeah, well, go ahead.
You missed it.
Tom, if you really
I'm
want.
not the chair, so that was not a real vote. How's that?
I just wanted to look at what's in the fund already. but-
140,
Bottom 140.
140 something.
Very low. Hard to believe.
Sorry, it's 9:30. I apologize.
Can I ask a question?
I apologize, yes.
Oh, we've got the
I'm
minute
done,
a couple
I'll
of
shut
times.
up.
I don't remember the details, but, what was the justification for adding more to the $140,000 fund? Is it
It's not adding, you're taking it, you're
Oh,
allowing them to spend.
to spend
out
it?
of it.
Never mind. You're right.
There's nothing going in.
Just to come out of the
In
fund.
the past, there have often been 2 cemetery articles. One for Cypre funds, and one
One to
would
spend.
be an
Fencing
article that
perimeters.
taxed it for work to be done on outside. For example, the one on River Road, is it Oil Mills, I think cemetery, new stone wall put up there quite a few years ago now. That type of work, or fencing and so forth, has to be through other funding than this, so. But the last few years, we haven't had an article for that type of funding.
Yeah, I was thinking about that. That's, I think,
Okay. So we
We
didn't,
really do need.
We need to vote for
yeah,
real.
Yeah, sorry.
okay. We did have a fake vote, but that's okay.
It's
All in
practice.
favor? 8-0.
All right, motion to approve the the town forester article.
You're moving the motion?
Yep.
Is there a second?
Second.
This money comes out of sale of timber from the town forests, so there's no tax impact. Is there any discussion?
What are the other uses of the timber money?
You don't have to vote on it each year to spend it.
Pardon me?
Right, but what do we use it for, other than to pay the forester, just in
Sometimes
general?
you purchase land with it.
Okay.
I mean, we've reduced it to buy more forest land. Right now, there's only 32,000
Right.
in it, so they're not,
Okay,
and they're not actively pursuing anything right now.
thank you.
There has been discussion, but never any action on proposing that it be used to support trail building within the conservation land, which personally I think would be a good idea, but that's not on the ballot this time around.
Probably would be good at some point to actually know where trails are and where you can go.
Yeah.
I don't know if too many people in the general population understand that.
No, there's a, the Farron Pond area, there's a trail that's mapped out there, and one small piece in the Eastman Forest, but there's so much more potential there on the 600 acres.
Anyway, moving on.
So, we're all set on the forester, all those in favor, did we vote?
The vote.
Okay, it's unanimous. Now, we've got the veterans' tax, and I understand that these have to coincide with each other and both pass in order to mean anything. Is there any questions that anybody has on those? Well, I move that we adopt the article for readoption of optional veterans' tax credit.
Second.
RSA 7228.
Second.
Second. Does everybody understand what Naomi went over earlier on that? So we can go ahead and vote, or do you have questions?
I think the main difference is they both have to pass, or we go back to step one where people have to reapply. We don't, it's an administrative headache.
Right.
And the only major change is that it will allow those currently on active duty to receive the benefit, as in addition to those who have historically got it, which was anybody who is a veteran.
Mustered out.
Is served and is now out. And the other change that was made a couple of years ago added those who were served, everybody who served, but to include those who served not in time of conflict.
Because the optional one had certain conflicts, and sometimes you weren't eligible for
Right.
the veterans, and
Yeah.
that's why the all veterans was, because that
Yeah.
caught up those that weren't eligible in certain conflicts. Now they've expanded it one more step, and
Active duty.
those that are, have not yet been discharged from service
Right.
is now eligible as well.
Right.
The downfall, if they both have to pass, but if they don't, they go from $500 to $50, that could be upsetting,
I hope we can get that across to
you know.
the public.
That'll be my
It
challenge.
would be a shame
to-
if this is, if this loses.
You can go to the Legion,
Hmm?
you can go to the Legion and do a presentation.
Okay, all those in favor of the optional tax credit readoption? It's unanimous. And the second part, we've already, all we need is a motion here for the readoption of all veterans' tax credit, RSA 7228B, and I'll move that if somebody wants to second it.
I'll second it.
Any other questions, or are we good?
Just a quick comment. There, assuming this passes, there's no way to know what the actual impact is going to be, because it's going to depend on how many people take it. It's only $500 per household, so whatever the impact is, it's going to be very, very minimal.
That's right. That's right.
In favor? Okay, 8-0.
Maybe technically I should abstain, because I receive a
He's a
benefit.
veteran.
Eligible.
Can I abstain on
Sure.
that? Because it affects me. I don't want to vote for my own pocketbook.
Or should I abstain because it affects my son?
No, I mean, I don't know how far you extend it out, but I mean,
If you're more comfortable saying
Yeah,
abstaining.
yeah,
that's
yeah,
fine.
I'll go 701.
On both?
Yeah, yeah, because I don't want to be voting for something that, gives me a benefit.
You don't have to take it.
I'd rather not vote on it than.
That's a true statement, but
I spent, I spent 13 years in Alaska.
you should take it.
I'll take it.
The next one we wouldn't be voting on anyways.
The next three won't.
That's three, so
Yeah, I think that's everything that
I
we
think
can
we
do
should talk
today.
about climate.
that's,
Motion to adjourn?
We got that, the non-union raises, we have to vote on that still?
quite a,
No,
You will, but not tonight.
not tonight.
Yeah, but
Because we're gonna finish Monday, so the only, this is Wednesday, you're still on the agenda to meet. But that would be really the only one you haven't.
the 4th, oh no, we're,
First.
the 1st.
we are listed as a meeting on the original list,
Well,
okay?
you did it as a, just in case.
Yeah,
You probably want to meet Wednesday to go over the
Wording.
wording,
Wording.
I'll
Yeah.
try and get it out by, I got it out a little later than I wanted to, by,
Can you go home and do it today after I got it?
don't say that, you stop.
You even picked it up early today.
I did. Then I had to referee a game. I had to go to Tilton, okay? I didn't start on it yet. So, yeah, I'll get, end of the weekend, maybe? I think I'm gonna,
Priorities.
yeah. Sunday night getting it out, and then if you have comments on it, feed them to me.
Yeah.
And hopefully I'll read them all on I got half a Genesis this week that I read.
what happened to that ref? He was here a minute ago, oh, he's reading.
Yeah, so, I can make some obvious corrections before we meet Wednesday and get them back out, and then shoot the individual ones to Naomi to get out for the
Yeah, we can
deliberations.
make the copies here.
Yeah,
I'm here Thursday and Friday anyway.
yeah.
Now, just for information, usually, at least for the last few years, if there are no changes made at deliberative session on an article, then that's it, our vote, our wording, everything stays the same. If there is a change made, then we would
Regroup.
take a second look at it.
Yeah.
Now, Bill, would that, if the change is not monetary, do we still look at it again? I don't know.
Change is not
I mean, I don't know how that would work
I
anyway.
guess only if there's a change.
Dollar change.
Yeah.
But I can't imagine how it would work if there wasn't a
Well,
dollar
I
change.
think technically we can come back and re-vote on any of these at any time if we want to.
No,
There's just no point in doing it.
that's not the way we worked before, no. We've, only if there's a change made. In other words, we can't come back and go through any one of these articles again unless there's a change made at deliberative session.
We've done that in the past.
I don't think so.
Yeah, we have. I'm not lying to you. It's been brought up to re-vote on things, to go through and reconsider
I
something.
think technically, if you're in the majority, you're the one that has to raise it, right, to revote, I think. Yeah, it's supposed to be in the majority opinion, which obviously we are in most all of these. Somebody who voted majority said, well, I'm not comfortable with the overall thing, and I would like to go back and visit. It doesn't happen very often.
Are we talking about any meeting, like, or are we talking about just the one after the deliberative session? I was talking about specifically the one after the deliberative session, where we come back if there are changes
Well,
made.
I don't want to belabor the fact, and I think at 9:30, but
9:40.
Well,
whatever.
deliberative can change more than just the dollar, though. It can also change the source of funding, I believe. Certain sources of funding. So there could be enough of a material change that we might want to consider that, potentially. But it can change the dollar and some of the movement.
You want me to also add, it won't be necessary for the deliberatives, but I can put you out a straw introductory statement when I send something out this week for people to chew on with the, if you get this much, what the expected impact on your taxes, just as something to start from. that we would later send out after for the mailer. I can get at least to send you out some thoughts on that. how
But
it'd be
at the
worded.
deliberative session,
They
we
don't get
only
that.
make recommendations on the individual warrant.
Correct, they don't get that, at the deliberatives.
But somebody from the committee speaks optionally, or?
Yeah, the
it
chair,
represents-
basically, we get
Chair.
up and read the things
The
we're putting in
recommendation.
the mail.
Yeah.
The chair or whoever designates to do so.
A motion to adjourn?
Absolutely.
Second.
In favor.
Favor.
Just, something caught me, Tom, I can turn this off now?